televised. They're not starting.
Only if I look thin.
Welcome to the Milford Board of Selectmen meeting for August 21st, 2017.
Babe, they're on TV. They're on TV.
The first agenda item is signing of the warrant.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve the warrant.
I'll second that. All in favor? That's unanimous. Next agenda item is approval of minutes of regular session for August 7th, 2017.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion we approve that as well.
And I'll second that. All in favor? That's unanimous. Then we have oh, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, unless you have a specific change request for the August 16th minutes, I'd also move that we approve those as well.
All right, I'll second that. All in favor? That's unanimous. Next agenda item is invitation to speak. We have a full agenda, so I am going to ask that everyone who's here for invitation to speak try to keep it within 5 minutes if we can. And I'm going to recognize Marie Parenti.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. A few weeks ago, I had my television on and I was doing spinning channels, as some people will want to do. And I accidentally came across the Selectmen's meeting. And it was the night that Mr. Stephen Manguso was here inquiring about his position, why he was not reappointed. The Armory has been an issue, a project that was near and dear to my heart since, I think, the year 2000, might even be earlier than that. In fact, J. D'Antonio called me 4 days before he died. That's how important it was to firefighter J. D'Antonio. And he asked me to remember two things. The first one was his wife and children. There was a bill affecting the families of firefighters circulating through the State House at the time. And he wanted me to keep working on that piece of legislation. And secondly, he said, promise me that you will not forget the Armory. He was the first one to suggest that the Armory be used for as a youth center. And so I filed the legislation, and I spoke to General Keefe, who was with the National Guard and lived in Mendon, and Colonel Lou Volpe, who was very instrumental in getting us the connections, the meetings that we needed with the officials of the National Guard. And there's no doubt about it that Stephen Manguso, from its very inception, working with young people, the Armory, and other programs in town, was an essential part of our youth program in the community. And I have 29 pieces of press releases of those people who supported it and headlines of people who did not support it. And eventually, with support from townwide, the people, population, we were able to get the support of town meeting, and then I filed a legislation to acquire the Armory. And as you know, we acquired the Armory for $1. That massive building, that handsome building that has stood over time and history and now being used by hundreds of young people. But if you were to type Stephen Manguso's name in your internet and your Google, you will see the long list of his accomplishments. One of the first pieces of information that I pulled out of my files was when Senator Moore and I invited him in, and the basketball team that year that was a champion team. And then we sent him the pictures. We took pictures with the team. His name was synonymous with youth and programs for over 15 years. And when we saw the interest, Senator Moore and I, we co-sponsored legislation to expand the membership on the commission from, I believe, 7 to 21. And I believe you have appointed 7. There's no need to ask anyone to leave the commission to appoint Stephen Manguso, because, as I said, there are 21 positions, only 7 have been filled. There is no reason that I can think of that Mr. Stephen Manguso, who enjoys a good name, not only in high schools across the state, but colleges. Just try it on your computer and see the fame that he enjoys as a person who works with our youth. Now, I've been in public office for 35 years, and as you know, I was the first woman to ever sit where you're sitting, Selectman Kincaid. And I had 26 years at the legislature, time after time, re-elected until I left in 2006, unwillingly, but I retired then, unwillingly, right? But I gave 35 years, and I never asked for a thing for myself or my family, for nothing. But I've often helped people who needed some assistance for their family, and I'm sure that you, both of you, can think of occasions where you may have called me. And I was there for you. And I'm asking you to be there for me tonight, because that was part of my dream too. Jay is the originator of it, no doubt about it. Full credit goes to firefighter Jay D'Antonio and his family, who worked hard. And actually the name of the youth center was supposed to be the J. D'Antonio Youth Center. And in May, I believe, of 2010, I wrote a letter to the Board of Selectmen and specifically asked that that be the case. But I'm not here for that tonight, to remind you what I may have done for you or your family or for other families. I'm here to say that's an injustice. Stephen worked hard with the youth of Milford, not just at the youth center, took kids for weekends, camping, basketball games, baseball games, has shown a sincere interest, and named by colleges as a great coach. I'm asking you to appoint Mr. Stephen Manguso to the commission. There's no reason not to. You have vacancies. If you have something that he has done that you think would keep him from being a good member, then tell us. I'm telling you that this issue is the talk of the coffee shops wherever I go. What is it? What happened to Stephen? Why did they do it? I said, I don't know, but the old Marie Parenti would be right down there asking if it happened to her. And I said, you know what? I'm going down, and I'm going to ask. So I'm specifically asking you, as someone who asked for nothing over 35 years, please reconsider your vote. Do the right thing. Maybe Stephen supported someone that you may not have wanted on a board or a committee or something. But as you know, the job that you hold requires you to serve the public regardless of your feelings. There were many times I helped people that I didn't want to. They weren't my supporters. But if their children asked me for an appointment, or they asked for an appointment, or they asked me to do something, as the state representative, I did it, whether I liked it or not. It was a citizen asking that a task be done, and I did it. And I'm asking you, you don't have to like Stephen Manguso. You have to respect the effort that he has put in to our youth and into our local government. So please, as I said, and I repeat it again, and I wish I could repeat it 1,000 times, I've asked for nothing. 35 years, as you know, I asked for nothing, and I'm asking tonight. There are those vacancies. Please appoint Stephen Manguso to the Milford Youth Commission and let him live out the rest of his dream. And Jay's dream. Remember, Jay worked with Stephen Manguso. They were buddies on the commission. They were good friends. And so I'm not going to say it 1,000 times like I promised I would.
And you don't need to know. Thank you, Marie.
Please, I will consider it a great honor to have him appointed to the commission. If you have a reason, then you owe it to the public and all of us. Tell us. Because as I said, you're the talk of the coffee shop crowd. We're out every day, sometimes twice a day, to bump into seniors to discuss what's going on. And so would you do that for me? I'm asking.
Thank you, Marie.
So can we get a motion?
This is invitation to speak.
No, we heard you out. We appreciate it. Thank you, Marie.
So you're not
Certainly
going-
not during the invitation to speak, no.
Well, I'll wait, and then maybe after the time expires, the public speaking time expires, perhaps you would do it. I'll sit and I'll wait. It's that important to me.
Okay.
By the way, when I did the research for this but this appearance, I had 29 pieces of information and news clips about who supported it, headlines about who did not support it, the Armory, and 29 public pieces in the newspapers surrounding towns included about the interest in this facility. It's a handsome facility, and hundreds of children are going there. So I'm going to say it again. The public wants to know. I want to know. And after 35 years, grant me at least that.
Thank you, Marie.
Thank you.
Next agenda item is public hearing and scheduled appointments. The first scheduled appointment is a joint meeting between the Milford Library trustees and the Selectmen to discuss a trustee appointment.
Wait, let me get here. Want to hold my cane? Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, we're not going to attack them.
Other sending too.
I'm not getting old. I fell. So, my best.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Take it easy. Thank you.
Bye, babe.
Thank you.
Rory, Ed, if you want to come on up. Sure. To the front. Are you representing the Board of Library Commissioners today?
Yes.
I do want to let everyone know, and I should have done at the beginning of the meeting, Mike Walsh couldn't be here last minute. He's dealing with some health issues with his family, and he had to run. So if we can keep him in our thoughts and prayers tonight, that'd be a good thing. Right. Okay. As confirmed by Ed, Rory, you're the chairman this year. Why don't you introduce yourself and your fellow board member?
I'm Rory D'Alessandro, and this is Ed Bertorelli for the Library Trustees.
Great.
And we're here to appoint a new trustee, hopefully.
Absolutely. The memo that we received from Richard Villani, the town administrator, has confirmed by the election council at the State House, the Board of Selectmen are required pursuant to MGL Chapter 41, Section 10, to vote to place this office on the ballot for the April 3rd, 2018 local election, as this position is for an unexpired term. The board vote must occur before the town clerk can make nomination papers available for each office. In addition, the board must file with the town clerk notice of an election for the office not less than 15 days before the last day to submit nomination papers to the registrars of voters. We received one letter of interest, and it was from George A. Clemens, Jr. The letter reads, "Dear Selectmen and Library Trustees, I am very interested in filling the current vacancy on the Board of Trustees. I am ready to serve and offer my experience as a former elected member of the Library Board, and thanks for your consideration."
Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
Knowing George Clements and knowing his background and his sincere desire to continue to serve the community, his former experience as a library trustee, I'd be happy to put his name in nomination and make a motion to appoint George A. Clemens, Jr. To the unexpired term for library trustee.
Is there a second?
I'll make a second.
Okay, second by Rick. We just have to do this by roll call vote. All those in favor? Bill?
Aye.
Rory?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
I also vote in the affirmative. That's unanimous.
I would like to point
Sure.
out also that a few trustees are absent and they all support George's candidacy, so.
Good.
Oh,
It'd
that's
be
great.
Great to see him fill that role, and,
Unanimous vote at our last
Yeah.
trustee meeting.
oh, great, great.
That's great. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All righty.
Thank you. Next agenda item is a joint meeting between the Milford School Committee and the Board of Selectmen for an appointment to the Blackstone Valley Technical School. Welcome, Chairman Joe Marias, and if you want to introduce your committee members.
Sure, thank you. So Joe Marias, Joe Callery, Jen Parson, Scott Harrison, John Erickson, and Jim Legore.
Great. Last meeting, I went through the formality of reading, as I did for the Mass General Law references. Some information came up. We asked and requested from the candidates additional information. I hope everyone received what they were looking for. Okay, that's great. As requested, are the resumes from the applicants to fill the vacancy on the Blackstone Valley Regional Vocational School District Committee. The vacancy can be filled with a roll call vote of the members of the Milford School Committee members present and the members of the Board of Selectmen. Notice of the vacancy was posted as required. We received 6 letters of interest for the position. The individual appointed will serve on the authority only until December 31st, 2018. The position will be placed on the November 6, 2018 state election ballot, and the board must also vote to place the position on the November 6th, 2018 election ballot.
Mr. Chairman, with that, I'd like to make a motion that once again, that we appoint Anthony Chinapi as a longstanding member of the community who holds a bachelor's and master's degree in education, is also a former employee of the Milford School Department, as a teacher, coach, and athletic director. Currently has serves Ameriprise Financial Services, up until 2015. He was an 8-year member of the Finance Committee, as I mentioned, his Commuter Rail Advocacy Committee, baseball club, former director and assistant for Legion Baseball. I'd like to put his name in nomination and make a motion that we appoint Mr. Chinapi.
Okay, is there a second? I'll second that motion. Is there any other further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Roll call.
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Jen?
No.
Joey? Mr. Chairman?
No.
John?
No.
Jim? Okay.
Excuse me, what was the vote of Jim? Okay, just, thank you.
6 in favor, I'm sorry, 2 in favor, 6 opposed. Are there any other nominations? Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Paul Braza for the position. As I mentioned at the last meeting, in my opinion, Paul really stood out for several reasons. He's a graduate of Blackstone Valley Tech. I think as the owner of an electrical company, he clearly understands the importance of a vocational education. It's really a model for the opportunity that a vocational education can provide. He does serve currently on their advisory committee for the electrical department. He hires or provides employment for their co-op students. He actively hires and recruits from vocational schools. So he's someone that I think can immediately add value to that committee, especially considering it is a short term, just through the expiration of it. But he's someone that I think can immediately start contributing and add value.
Mr. Chairman, I'll second that motion.
Okay. Roll call vote.
Aye.
Joe?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Jim? John?
Yes.
I'll also vote in favor, and that's unanimous. Thank you, guys. Oh,
I just make comments
sure,
on
of
that?
course.
I just wanted to comment on the caliber of the candidates that came forward, and Bill, you nominated the same person twice, which obviously speaks to how you feel about that candidate, and I wouldn't want to vote that looked weighted in one way or another to deter from the quality of both of the people that we were considering. I think they both bring different things to the table, and I hope that we can encourage these people to look for other opportunities, whether it's a school committee, either one, or another position that's similar moving forward.
Thank you, Jen. I really appreciate that.
I'd like to second that, Will. I just wanted to say thank everybody for submitting. There were a lot of qualified candidates, including Mr. Chinapi, who was eminently qualified. So I want to thank everybody for their time.
Great, thank you. Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Rick? Okay.
No, she's in the glass.
Dan, can we take a 2-minute recess? All right, thank you. And to the viewing public, thank you. We just took a couple minutes while we were transitioning. The next agenda item are interviews for the town accountant position. We have 3 interviews we're going to be conducting this evening. And Rick, do you want to explain the process? Just so how people know that the final candidates got here?
Basically, the position was advertised in the Beacon, the Daily News, town website, Beacon website. We did receive 28 applications for the position. Zach Taylor, Finance Director, and I reviewed the resumes. We selected 6 candidates to be interviewed. There were 2 rounds of interviews. Zach did the first round of interviews and narrowed to 4 individuals. I then sat in on the second round of individuals, and it was narrowed to the 3 individuals that you will interview here tonight. And that's pretty much how we got to where we are now.
Okay, nope, that's a great explanation. Linda, can you just tell us about yourself, your experience, and why you think you're a good fit for the town of Milford? And
Sure.
anything else you want to add to those introductory comments?
Sure. Well, I live in Milford, which I'd love to work in Milford. And I started out my municipal experience in Hopedale, 2005. I was certified in 2008. I did everything in Hopedale. I was a town accountant. There was no finance director, so I did it all. I was there for almost 10 years, and then Chris Laviolette, who is now the finance director in Bellingham, he worked for R.E. Brown and Company, doing Hopedale's audits, and he asked me to come work for him in Bellingham. And that's where I am now.
Bill?
Linda, I've had the pleasure of knowing you for quite a long time. You're a former classmate of mine. So I'm familiar with your background. I actually watched you in Hopedale and both Bellingham. But for the benefit of others, I'd like to just ask a few questions, because I think, one, it's a significant position you're
Yes, it is.
applying for, and you know that. And 2, not everybody who might be watching this evening might be as familiar with you. You're currently deputy town accountant in Bellingham, and you were formerly town accountant in Hopedale.
Yes.
You have a Bachelor's of Science in Business Administration, concentration in accounting. You're certified government accountant. I just want to make sure I have this, and you provided all the necessary background information. Tell me about what you see as the difference between, say, where you're currently employed and Milford, the differences in Milford, how they might be challenging, how they might be easier, how they might correlate to what you're doing today and where you're working.
I think in both cases where there is a finance director, I think I would consider myself support for Zach in the role, like I am with Chris. So basically, I have my role, but I also support Chris, whether it be projects, whether we have an issue with the software, whether we have, whatever's going on, I assist him in it. As I think Milford's bigger than Bellingham. I think Bellingham's 52 million budget. So Milford will be a bigger budget, but I think the duties are the same. Everything is the same. It's just in a larger scale. Having not worked in Milford, I don't know how to compare and contrast what I do in Bellingham, but I think it's going to be a lot of the same as I do here in Bellingham.
Okay, and you mentioned an important difference where we have Director of Finance.
Yes.
As we know, a lot of times, there are multiple ways to skin a cat, and to report to the DOR, meet their requirements, all the
Right.
regulatory requirements of Mass General Law and the DOR, and just in general, good accounting practices, right? How is that difference in that chain of command different? And what do you do when you have to reconcile a potential conflict where, you've been a town accountant, not having
Have been.
not having a finance director, you've got your set way, the finance director wants to do it a different way. How do you reconcile that? How would you approach that? And still, you know, make sure that your position was clear during the process and it's respectful.
I think in any process, you're gonna, you know, agree to disagree, so to speak. So, for instance, Chris and I disagree on some things, and we will sit there and we'll talk about it. He'll say his point, I will say my point, and sometimes he'll say, yep, you know, I see your point, and I'll say, okay, I see your point, but then sometimes he's like, sorry, Linda, I'm gonna do it the way I think I should do it. And I'm like, okay, you know, what am I gonna do? I try to argue my point, and if he overrides me, he overrides me, and there's not much I can do about it. But I do argue my point.
Okay. All right. You know,
Excuse me, I shouldn't say argue, you know, go back and forth with that.
Sure, sure. Do you see any any fundamental differences in the roles and responsibilities? I mean, you've talked about the similarity between your role in Bellingham and the role in Milford. Can you tell me what you see are differences, whether they be in accounting tools, whether they be in methods, policies, procedures? You went through a couple of rounds of interviews, so I'm guessing you had the
Right.
opportunity to check that out.
You know, the thing with government, and I found this in Bellingham and Hopedale, is the process is the same. You know, you have year end, you have the Schedule A, you have the balance sheet checklist, you have the balance sheet. Then, you know, you have the audits, the closing of the books, the reconciliations. The process in both areas is the same. So the differences are the software, or somebody might let something go for a dollar amount where, like, say there's a discrepancy or something, or a transfer that needs to be made. One town might say, okay, this is my limit, like $3,000. Another town might say $5,000. So it's, you know, principles. But to me, the towns are run the same processes.
Okay, I was wondering if you had can you think of any specific differences that you were able to gather from your interview process? No, I mean, not really. Okay. Not really. All right.
And it's hard to answer that question because I'm not in that role yet.
No, I was just curious if
But
through
just
the interview.
getting it, no, not really.
Okay. All right. You know, Mr. Chairman, I can see why Linda made it to a finalist. She certainly has not only the accounting experience, highly qualified in her field, and also by education. Additionally, she's a Milford resident, which adds a bonus to that, because we're always looking to appoint Milford residents where we can and where it makes sense. That's not always the overriding factor, but it's certainly a consideration. So I don't have any further questions.
Okay.
Thank you, Linda.
And Linda, I won't keep you here much longer either. What I always like to go back to is more of a customer service centric question or philosophy or whatever it is that you have, because even though in the town accountant's position you may not be dealing specifically with the public all the time, but obviously you're working in a group of, you know, in a building, whether it's Hopedale, Bellingham, Milford, different people. I know I have all different people and personalities and egos in my office. How do you see yourself, or how do you handle, never mind just differences of opinions, but how you see your role and either your coworkers being customers or, you know, or it's someone walking through the hall asking for directions. To me, that's what I care honestly most about, you know, in this building.
And I have to say, that is a big part of the job. More so when I was in Hopedale than in Bellingham. And I'm gonna take it a step further, is the department heads. Because in Hopedale, I worked really closely with the department heads. Make sure we give them reports on a monthly basis, that their set of books that they keep and our set of books that we keep are the same. And I had an open door policy. And I said, I want you to come in, and I want you to talk to me, and I want to go over the differences, if there are differences, and where they lie. Did we make a mistake? Did you make a mistake? I like to balance. I love to balance everything. And you know, when you have a good rapport with the department heads, it goes a lot smoother. And I'd have to say, in Hopedale, I have great rapport. You can call any of the department heads and ask. Open door policy, come talk to me. And it really, really, really worked well for me. And the same with anybody in the hallway, and the same with my coworkers. It's a team effort. It's a team effort. And you can't go into something and say, I'm right. You can't do that. You have to be open-minded to hear somebody else's side of the story and work things out. There are going to be different personalities, and there are a lot of different personalities in the town, but you have to learn how to work with it. I had somebody in Hopedale, and she would come in, she'd be like, ah, you know, she was just one of those personalities that she would just explode, and I'd have to, you know, calm her down, and then we'd talk. We talk it out, and we had a great relationship, but it took time to build that relationship. But I can do that.
Great. Is there, we have 5 more minutes if we want to use it. Is there anything else you'd like to add or close with, or?
Like I said in the beginning, I would love to work in the town that I live in. I grew up here. I have the utmost respect for Zach. I always have from day one when I met him. And I think I'd be a good fit for the job. I definitely have the experience. I have the knowledge. And I figure my role here would be to support Zach. And that's what I want to do. I want to be there for him. Whatever he needs me to do, I will do.
Okay. Thank you. Well, anything else, Bill?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Chair.
Linda.
Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
Thanks.
Good luck.
Thank you.
I apologize for interrupting, but I forgot a very important piece of information, and that is that Selectman Walsh, who nominated Stephen Mangles, who is not here, I respectfully ask that you wait until there's a full board to bring up the appointment of hopefully, the successful appointment of Stephen Mangles, so I would appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you, Marie.
Thank you, Selectman Buckley and Selectman Kincaid.
Come on up, Gene.
The next candidate is Gene A. Ferrari Jr. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Chief Ferrari.
Will Kincaid.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No problem.
Taking this is my assistant, Gene.
Hi, Gene.
Not
I
Gene.
like the name.
And Gene, you've been in the audience, so it's pretty much the
Yeah.
the same format. I'm just going to ask that you tell us about yourself, your experience, why you
Sure.
think you might be a good fit in Milford, and what interested you in the position.
Well, what interests me in the position was Milford is, as you can see on my resume, I've worked in, I hate to say, smaller towns, towns that aren't going places. I hate to use that term. Pepperell's farm country, Charlton is farm country. I'm from Athol, and despite what you've heard on the street, Athol is not a thriving metropolis, never will be. Milford appears to be growing. I can bring a lot of different experience to Milford. I've got experience in enterprise funds, the whole gamut. I've been a finance director in Pepperell. You know, soup to nuts. I can set a tax rate. I reconcile with a collector. I can do treasury stuff. I can do all that stuff. I saw this open. I've met Zach several times at accounting seminars and the association.
Conferences and things like that.
Conferences and stuff like that. And I saw this open. I gave Zach a buzz. I says, hey, can I do this? And Zach says, yeah, with your experience, I don't see why not. And based on my conversation with Zach and what I see happening in Milford, I thought it was a great fit.
Great. Thank you, Gene. Bill?
Yeah, I'll ask some of the same questions because what I'm interested in is some of the similarities and differences where you work now. I'm hoping that through multiple interview processes, not only did the candidates or did the department heads and various people get an opportunity to interview you, but you also had an opportunity to interview them and to see, you know, what you're familiar with, what's consistent with what you're doing. I know that the accounting principles are the same, and I know
Exactly.
that the, you know, a lot of the same reports, Schedule A's and whatnot, are all required, but I wanted to see what you've gleaned from your interview process. And
Oh, it's exactly what Linda said. Everything pretty much is the same with DOR. Yeah, you've got different DOR reps, and they may want to see things a different way than another DOR rep, but bottom line, the numbers are all the same. What I can bring here is I've set up enterprise funds where I don't know if Milford has an enterprise fund.
It does.
They do, okay. With sewer?
Sewer.
I think it's sewer, that's what Zach said. I've set up enterprise funds where they've become self-sufficient, not where the town has subsidized them. I've set up systems. I've installed systems in 2-3 different towns.
software systems?
Software systems. Vadar, I'm familiar with Vadar, I'm familiar with Munis, I'm familiar with Harper's Payroll, BMS. They're all pretty much municipal
Software accounting
software.
systems, yeah.
They're all pretty much the same. But, you know, based on talking with Zach, there's a lot of similarities. The players are different. There's no question about that. The question you posed to Linda. I want to work with people. A lot of times in these jobs, I've been called off the job and said, hey, can you do this? Can you do that? Can you help out here? Can you help out there? Where I've got a vast, you know, prior to becoming municipal accountant, I spent years in systems, money and banking, insurance, which is, by the way, very dry, but we won't even go there. So I can bring a lot.
I sell insurance. No, I don't.
No, I'm talking
I just
insurance
thought-
accounting. Insurance accounting is dry.
I don't. I just.
So I can bring a lot of the things that a municipality may not have an expert in, I know enough about to get us through. You know, I don't know what else to
How about differences, Gene? You talked about the similarities.
Yeah.
But, what do you see?
The differences, I mean, Milford is.
Dynamics of the community. Tell me a little bit maybe about our finances, where we are, how we're structured.
You're
How that
100
might be different than City of Charlton.
Yeah, they're pretty much, again, you have a much bigger department, much bigger budget. You've got a $100 million budget. Whereas Charlton's got a $25 million budget. It's not, Gardner had a $50 million budget. You've got a lot more players, but what I can bring to I can work with anybody. You know, I go places with my wife, and she'll want to leave, and I'll be talking to somebody, and she'll say, "Who was that?" I don't know. I'm just talking to the guy, having a grand old time, and, you know, 15 minutes later, she's sitting there going, "Can we leave?" I can work with anybody. I can talk with anybody.
So besides personnel, do you see anything fundamentally, organizationally, structurally, policy-wise, software-wise, anything that?
No, I mean, again, the software's all the same. Everything appears the same. I mean, you've got a much bigger police department. You've got a much bigger.
Yeah, I think we scale bigger than Charlton in every aspect.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
School
that's-
department,
Yeah,
600 plus.
school department, I'm familiar with the school department. Gardner. The other towns, the school was a regional school district, so we just gave them a check and said, here you go, have a fine American life. Gardner, we own the school. So there was a ton of reconciliation with school grants, which is real similar to what Milford does. You know, we have to reconcile with them all the time. And as Linda mentioned, I'm key on keeping, on a monthly basis, things reconciled, because then at year end, it's a snap. You just pull things together and, you know, you're catching up on maybe 6 weeks of bills or 7 weeks of bills because you hold the year open a little bit longer. But other than that, everything's all reconciled and everything should go smooth. And then it goes right into Schedule A. I mean, I've set up the system in Charlton and, well, Athol and Pepperell that you hit a button and Schedule A is populated. It's just a matter of verifying numbers.
It all has to do with your relationship with the department heads and how you're reconciling throughout the year.
Yeah, and again, as Linda mentioned, there's a difference. Hey, here's what I did, here's what you did. Okay, let's work on it. What do you want it to, you know, here's what it should be.
One uniqueness of your resume that I wanted to ask you about, because it's something I made note of during my review of the resumes, is the time and position.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there are some periods of time where, you know, you obviously spent 9 years.
10 and a
12
half,
years.
I think, or 12, whatever it was.
You were part of the board facility and Digital Equipment Corporation in Westminster,
Well, that was, let me,
finance manager.
yeah.
You were part of that acquisition?
I started at Digital in '89.
Yeah.
Digital was bought by, well, they told us it was a merger. Sure, it was a merger.
It was an
Digital was
acquisition.
bought by Compaq. 2 years later, Compaq was bought by Hewlett-Packard.
Right.
So I ended, it was Hewlett-Packard. That was 17 years?
I'm a former DEC employee as
Oh,
well.
are you?
Yeah, that's why
God
I'm
bless
familiar
you.
with that business. But, you know,
And
more
then-
specifically, I noticed Royalston, Garner, and Charlton.
Sure.
1 year stints with each. 4 years at
Gardner-
Royalston as an accountant and 3 years in Pepperell.
Yeah.
I want to
Pepperell
see if
was
I
3
can help me
years.
with that.
Pepperell was 3 years. Gardner opened up. It was bigger. So after 3 years, I went to Gardner. Unfortunately, in Gardner, it was a family issue. My mother passed away. My dad's got dementia. And when they were living in the same house, everything was great. He had that sense of security. Toward the end, we had no choice but to put her in a nursing home. That was just, my father had no idea what was going on. I was getting calls at work. It was constant. Unfortunately, I'm the only one around, so I negotiated a settlement with Gardner, and they were gracious enough to grant me that. Took care of my dad for a while. He's in much better hands now, thank God. And then I went to Royalston. It's on there. That was a weekend warrior job. That was only a part-time position. I did that when I was working. I started that in Athol, did it through Pepperell, did it through Gardner, and I think when I started in Charlton, I finally said, you know, enough. And it was a weekend warrior job is what it was. It was done Saturdays and Sundays is what it was, and just turned it. It was nothing, it was strictly a part-time position.
Excuse me.
And, yeah, it was a weekend warrior job. And then I went to Charlton, and, again, personal issues. It was just, it didn't, there were agreements made when I started, and a year later, those agreements were not held up, and it was 65 hours. I was, you know, we worked 40 hours in 4 days. I was going in on Friday, I was going in on Saturdays. It was just me. I had no assistant. I did soup to nuts. The bills came in, I processed the bills, I did data entry, I did key punch, I did all that stuff. Trying to keep up with the reconciliations, keep that reconciling cash. We had no treasurer. We had a part-time treasurer. We had no collector. So I was the jack of all trades for probably 4 or 5 months, and it just, after a while, it was just, I can't take this anymore. So.
And you said that was apparent when you went in to the role, but there was some other agreements or something that
When I started the role, there was an agreement made that, yeah, you can get an assistant. I said, great, I need an assistant. toward the, I couldn't even get an intern from Nichols College
Okay.
right there. It was just, wow, thanks, guys. And I did collecting sewer taxes because there was no collector for a while. I did what I could in the, you're not supposed to. I had to enter some payroll stuff. I entered it there, but I helped out in the treasurer's office. Did that because we had a part-time treasurer. So I know a little bit about a lot, let's put it that way.
All right. Well, thank you.
Not a problem.
I don't have anything more, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Gene.
Thank you. Gene, all I wanted to go back to again, and just for the people watching, I always ask about who people view as the customer and their customer service and how they take that, because again, I don't have to sit here and ask you any more accounting type questions. You're, the 3 finalists got here going through that channel, so questions about being qualified and things like that are expected, and also through Bill's questions are apparent. But if you can just, again, as I asked Linda before you, just who you view as your customer, who you interact with as the town accountant, who you think you're gonna interact with, because that's, as I said earlier, really my most important quality in a person, especially in a public building. I'm a public employee. I know what it means to be accountable to the taxpayers. So if you could just touch on that, and then any other closing remarks you'd like to make.
Sure, that was one thing I learned in Athol, was it was hard living and working in the same town. I would be at our son's baseball game, basketball game, or daughter's soccer, whatever. People would come up to me, hey, my tax rate, can you help me? Sure. At any time, you're on call. I get phone calls at 10 o'clock at night when I was in Athol. Hey, what's up with my tax? Help me out with my tax rate. They're only supposed to go up 2.5%. How come I went up 3.8%? You explain, you take the time and you explain that to everybody. As far as who my customers are, they're the public, if the public stops in. If there's something on the retirement board, since the accounting office is closely tied with the retirement board, I served on the retirement board. They're the retirees. They're the current employees that want to know, hey, can you calculate my retirement package for me? You're my customer. You need something? It's there. It's department heads. We have, everything is held in the accounting office. If for some strange reason they don't have a contract, we have that contract. We can give them a copy of that contract. Department heads are my customer, the people are my customer. Rich is my customer, you're my customer. Anybody that comes in that office is my customer. And as far as, I know where this question is probably gonna go if I have a disagreement with Zach. I've known Zach for a while. Again, I've got his back. If I don't agree with it, that's the role of a town accountant. I may not agree what's voted at town meeting. I don't have an opinion. I know it's probably not gonna work, and I've voiced my opinion, but if the town votes it in, I'm running with it. I have no choice. With Zach, I've known him long enough where we could go in, we can hash it out, not a problem. If I can make Zach explain to me why my way not gonna work, great, I'll go with Zach's way. I will have Zach's back one way or another. If it works, great, we're heroes. One of the best things I learned was the worst decision you can make is not to make a decision. Make a decision, right or wrong. If it's wrong, okay, we're gonna fix it, let's go on. If it's right, you're a hero. If it's something, if I convince Zach to do something and Zach says, yeah, okay, we're gonna do it, and it doesn't work, I'm gonna take the blame. I'm not gonna say. On the other hand, if we went Zach's way and it didn't work out, and hey, we worked on it together, not, I did this. No, we worked on it together, we're a team. So there is not gonna be any, I don't think there'll be any disagreements with Zach at all. None whatsoever. The way I know Zach, in work, outside of work, not an issue.
Great. And there's a few minutes left if you'd like to make any closing remarks, if there's anything you want to add.
The only thing I want to say is that with my background and experience, that if, and I hate to say this, if Zach got hit by the proverbial bus, I could step in and do that role, at least in an interim basis, until you find somebody. I could handle that role. I've done it all from processing bills, looking through the bills, making sure they're whatever limit it is, all the way up through. I've taken the first classes to be a certified purchasing professional. So if Rick needs a hand in that, you know, there's a lot that I can bring to the table. That's pretty much it. What you see is what you got.
Well, thank you very much.
Not a problem. Thank you. One of the other things I think that, if I can, real quick.
Sure.
I'm also a sports official, basketball, baseball, and football. You talk about dealing with disagreements there.
He has a little conflict resolution happens from time to
Yeah,
time.
and it's not so much, the players are great. Sometimes it's the parents, but some of the coaches are really, yeah, you gotta work things out with them, so. That's pretty much it, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Great to meet you. Good luck.
Thanks, Gene. Take care.
Gee, nice meeting you.
How are you?
My name's Tom Brown. Hi, Bill. Nice
Good to see you again.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time and allowing me to come before you tonight.
No, that's great, and congratulations on being a finalist. As you saw with the other two candidates, very casual. If you just want to tell us about yourself, your experience, what brings you here, and you have a different background that I'm kind of excited to
Yes,
hear about. so-
absolutely. I'm going to come at a different angle tonight.
Okay.
As you'll see. So as you know or may not know, my wife and I are born and raised in Milford. We're lifetime residents. I graduated from North Adams some time ago. Post-graduation, I've worked for 2 companies in my 33-year professional career. When I graduated and came back to Milford, I started out working for a small accounting firm, A. Paul Buffalo and Associates. I'll reference that as APB just for the sake of acronyms here, / the payroll company. So when I first started at the A. Paul Buffalo and Associates, it was a small accounting practice, and we processed payrolls for a few of our accounting clients. As time went on, the payroll part of the business really started to take off. So after a few years, Paul generated a new company called the Payroll Company. And I was tasked with managing that part of the business. Within the next 5 years, we skyrocketed to processing payrolls for over 200 companies, 2 of which were our biggest clients were the municipal payroll for the town of Hopedale and the municipal payroll for the town of Milford. So back when prior to the town of Milford going in-house with their payroll, I was actually managing the complete soup to nuts as far as creating the earnings accounts, the withholding accounts, the various different pre- and post-tax accounts, the withholding, the various health insurance withholding. It was a very labor-intensive and manual process back then. Matter of fact, I was spending probably multiple hours each week working with, back then it was, Tony Randa was the town accountant, and Joanna Goncalves was his assistant. So through that, the process to payroll, I understand all about the warrants. Matter of fact, the first order of business you guys do at the meeting is to sign the warrant. Well, that warrant can't be signed until at least the payroll part of it is reconciled. And as you know, and as we know, and being in that business for quite some time, payroll is the most important aspect of your people. You want to make sure people are paid on time and the payroll is right. So I spent a numerous amount of hours processing the town's payroll and ensuring that it was correct. So I worked for the payroll company for the better part of 16 years. I had an opportunity, while I wanted to improve my my experience. So back then there was a small, well, it wasn't small, but it was an $8 billion company, a high-tech company, that I had an opportunity to go work for. I applied to EMC Corporation. At the time, they were located right up behind Waters. So I pretty much stayed in Milford this whole time. I went to work for them in their contracts management organization as a supervisor. I worked in that role for 5 years, and in my daily activities, I communicated on a daily basis with their credit collections organization. A position came available as their North America credit manager. I applied for it, and I was appointed to that position. And in the last 12 years, I performed all the roles and responsibilities of their North America credit manager position as far as credit reviews, credit analysis, financial statement analysis, basically performing the credit worthiness of a potential customer based on the revenue projections by sales in any particular year. From there, in the prior 3 years, the last 3 years of those 12 years, I was promoted to senior manager of credit collection, so I assumed a much larger role on the collection side, so managing the credit, collections, and whatnot. So, as you know, back in October, EMC was bought out by Dell Technologies. As a part of that buyout, my position as senior credit manager, credit collection manager, was eliminated. My organization was downsized, and all the activity went to Texas. The nice thing about it is I received a very generous package that is still in effect today. Okay? Now, as you can see, I really don't have much experience in the municipal accounting part of it. However, in meeting with Zach on a couple of occasions now, Zach clearly has the roles, responsibilities, process, procedures clearly in place, many of which are documented. Mass General Laws, Chapter 41, Section 55 and 57, clearly outline the roles and responsibilities of the municipal accountant. Not only that, UMass offers courses in municipal accounting, many of which Zach actually teaches. So I feel that even though I lack that experience, the tools, the resources are clearly in place to ensure that my transition into that role would be seamless and rather minimal. And quite honestly, you know, after listening to the prior two speakers, it really is an advantage to have prior municipal accounting experience. I admit that. However, some coming from that role in another town may come with some preconceived notions of how things should be run, how they were run there that maybe work for them, but I don't necessarily think they may work in this town. Now, the town of Milford's in a very enviable position, as we know, okay? Their free cash flow balances are extremely positive. And as we know, that improves your bond ratings. Right now, the town of Milford has an AA2 bond rating. So that allows the town that when they're seeking funds from the state and federal governments for funding on capital projects, they receive the best rates. And that was evident even with the kickback that you received from the new school building, right. The refund you got from that. So I feel my 33 years of experience, and as you see, I don't jump from job to job. When I take on a role, as my letter of intent outlines, I do what it takes to get the job done. I've worked for 2 companies in 33 years. It shows my commitment to achieving success. If I take on this role, we're not talking about a 1 or 2 year stint. We're talking about I'm going to retire to this role. Now, when I say that, that doesn't mean I'm here to ride off into the sunset. I understand the hard work and efforts involved here. And I would be here to be a voice for Zach, to continue with the roles and responsibilities of that position, but at the same time, understanding full well, as you see my resume, I've been a part of many process implementations, system implementations. All my roles and responsibilities and processes at EMC were Sarbanes-Oxley controlled. I met with internal auditing every quarter. As you know, coming from the corporate environment, it's all about cash flow, maximizing revenue, okay? Every quarter, I met with internal auditing, then I had to meet with PwC, the external auditing team, to commit, okay? So as far as negotiation skills, presentation skills, I've talked to Zach. There's a couple of, and you can stop me whenever you want, but I know there's a couple initiatives going on with Zach right now, one being the acquisition of the water company. So there's going to be a very in-depth analysis that he's going through right now. Mm-hmm. He's also, whether he started it or not, the town of Milford processes 3 payrolls. They have a weekly school, they have a bi-weekly school, and they have a bi-weekly town payroll. okay? Now, I know, and I told Zach this, I'd be more than willing, I'd love to, because this is a part of my project management skills that I've developed along the way. I would love to spearhead that project and go before the departments that are involved, the people that are involved, especially the people that are receiving paychecks on a weekly basis. Now, it would be a benefit to the town if we transitioned that to one biweekly payroll. Now, anytime you're implementing processes and systems, there's a
Represents
downstream
change.
effect,
Yeah.
there's an upstream effect. I've facilitated these type of meetings where I get all of them, everybody together, and we talk about, if we're implementing a new process, how's that affect the downstream, upstream, and you try to work to ensure that the effects are as minimal as possible. So as far as that type of activity, I mean, that excites me. Now, again, as far as the municipal part of it, that's easily learnable. The tools are in place to learn that process. As far as you talk about the Schedule A, I read the financial statement book for 2016 and all the funds, all the balance sheet and income statements along those funds. And quite honestly, I'm going to put my wife on the spot here. She sat, because it's public knowledge. She sat with me and she says, "Oh, my word, look at these reports." I said, "Mary, all that is a matter of ensuring that all the accounts are applied to the proper accounts, all the balances, all the checks. If everything's applied properly, that report becomes pretty seamless." Okay? So I feel with my years of experience, 33 years in accounting and finance, that I could really offer Zach a support system there. You know, now, you talk about differences, there's no differences here. It's a matter of really getting your team working together. I feel I have the interpersonal skills. I get along well with people. You talk to anybody that knows me. You guys know me. You know, it's just when you're very communicative, you can get a lot of things done. Finally, I'll say that the town accountant's position is you're really a steward for the town. You're really managing the two most important assets to the town. What? Assets and your cash and your accounts receivables. And again, the clear cash position that the town is in puts them in a real enviable position with other towns. And I certainly look to really keep that momentum going. I look to, you know, really supporting Zach. Zach's done an outstanding job, and you guys know this. I mean, I see him up here every week. He presents himself well. Between him and the treasurer, I mean, I'm amazed at these young people, how sharp they are. And here we are. And I think I can offer both of them a lot of support and that maybe lacks on the municipal side, but in other areas, I can learn that real quick, that the learning curve would be relatively small. Dave?
Tom? Yeah, no, you know, I can see, as a matter of fact, I didn't note that you had municipal payroll experience. So I was looking at this like pure business accounting, EMC, and frankly, I would have actually been surprised if we mapped this out, that somebody from a business background and business accounting background made to the finalists. I actually know why when I see it. And that means you showed Zach and the others through the interview process that there are a lot of transferable skills, and not only transferable, but some direct experience when it talks payroll, because you know how much of the accounting job is frankly payroll. It's a significant chunk of the work, and especially when you consider the number of employees we have. I'm going to ask.
And not to interrupt you, keep in mind, back when I processed that payroll, it was a manual effort. Now, there wasn't 1,600 employees, but these 1,100 to 1,200 employees, that information was keyed in manually. It's not automated like it is today. And the last few months, I spent quite some time over at the payroll company, seeing some of the automation that they've put in place, and I'm amazed at it.
Amazing.
So I really have a background from the IT internal side of it.
Sure.
I didn't, you know, not to interrupt you, but.
No,
just wanted to
and
stress that.
so I'll ask you some of the, what, you know, you've had an opportunity to think about this probably more than the other candidates. Can you tell me about the differences? And I'm interested in some of the differences that you see are both positive differences and opportunity differences where you think you might bring something to that table. I think you've talked a little bit about it, but I'd ask you to expound on it.
Differences in what way? Process, procedures?
So I guess what I'm trying to hunt down in this discussion is, I've asked other people what it's like to go from municipal accounting in one town to another. Now I'm asking you what you in your head are seeing as big differences.
Okay.
And how much of those do you think you bring something different to, or it's just a matter of you learning, right? Because some aren't going to change, regardless of Tom, Bill, Will. That same accounting system is going to be used for a period of time. So which ones do you think are challenging from the respect of learning? And then others, which ones do you think maybe you bring something different and unique to the table?
Sure, twofold.
Yeah.
To your point, from a process standpoint, there isn't much difference. We know this. When you're in corporate accounting, well, when you're in private accounting, you're dealing with your client. When you're in corporate accounting, you're dealing with, and if it's a public company, you're dealing with maximizing earnings per share, industry analysts to drive that stock price up. When you're dealing with municipal accounting, you're dealing with federal and state guidelines, not only through tax, but as far as retirement goes, as far as procurement goes. It's really mandated by the state and the federal governments on how you process.
Right.
Okay, so really, I mean, those are the only real differences I see. When you learn accounting, you're learning accounting as a base. But in this particular case, there's a lot of nuances from an IRS, a state, withholdings, taxes, tax rate, tax basis.
And you mentioned regulatory environment earlier when you talked about SOX or Sarbanes-Oxley. Yeah. Can you talk about the regulatory environment? Because you just mentioned a lot of regulatory environment that municipalities have to deal with. Can you talk a little bit about what the regulatory environment?
From a corporate standpoint?
Yeah.
Sure. So in my environment, all my roles and responsibilities were SOX controlled. I'll give you an example. So I had a $20 million approval level on any orders coming in. I could sign off on a $20 million, go out the door, nobody even speak to me. Now, if an order came in for $50 million, I had to show evidence to not only internal auditing, but PwC, that I went to my senior director who's got a $50 million line, or if an order came in for $100 million, I had to go to my VP for approval authority. So when internal auditing came in first, they'd say, and somehow, some way, they always found the right orders to review. So here's a $100 million order, Tom. Show me evidence that you went for approval, the appropriate approval. So I'd show my senior director's signature, my VP signature, and I'd have to show evidence that way. So we were heavily SOX controlled every quarter, every year. Not only that, as a senior manager, I was tasked with being an internal audit for other organizations. So we always had other managers internally now auditing us. And sometimes, you know, when you go audit another senior manager's organization, you'd get some pushback. Well, I push back a little bit sometimes too. But at the end
I've
of the
been
day,
part of those teams, so it's interesting.
okay, so at the end of the day, you have a process in place, and then our external auditing was PwC.
Yeah,
So
I'm familiar.
PwC would come in. So you're still subject to the guidelines from that perspective, as opposed to, you know, from on the municipal side, it's a little different. But it's really managing controls, and same thing in Zach's arena. It's all about policies, procedures, guidelines, and everything's in place. And I'd look to come in and just continue that effort with them, and hopefully offering, once we get going, and once I get up to speed on the nuances from that side, be able to offer guidance, and hopefully I can offer some experience to them in other ways. But from an auditing perspective, we were heavily SOX compliant, and we had to adhere to those guidelines. And I am proud to say, and if you called two of my senior directors that I worked for in all those years, I never once failed an audit, because quite honestly, we know that's absolutely positively a no-no. So you make sure you have all your processes in place that allow you to ensure that everything's in, you know,
Controlled
running
as it should,
controlled.
yeah.
I hope
Yeah,
that
no,
answers your question.
It does, and I just wanted to give you time. I note that, you know, one of the things you noted was important to me because I noted it as well. So, and that's your time and position. And many of your changes that you made, you made changes through promotions internally, so I congratulate you on those.
Thank you.
It wasn't you weren't job hopping or bopping from one company to another.
And I will say, in those instances, I was actually approached.
Yeah.
I really didn't even go for these, but I was
Sometimes
approached.
it's not voluntary, right?
And that's okay, though.
Yeah.
I mean, again, working for two companies in 33 years speaks a lot for my commitment to taking on a task and a role.
No, I think it also sometimes when somebody approaches you like that, it means you have a mentor, coach, and somebody who desires to see you succeed and is not giving anything away. You work for it. So I appreciate it. you know, I had asked the other people about differences, but you talked a little bit about learning from Zach, helping Zach in terms of process. I have no doubt that if there's a difference, you explained yourself pretty thoroughly. If there are differences, you know, you're working with Zach, and Zach's a coach and teacher, mentor, teaches some of the courses. So I don't have any more questions, Tom, and I appreciate your time. Again, as was said earlier to others, congratulations for being a finalist. It's clear to me, as it was with the others, you're in a tough pool, but it's clear to me why you're here. And so that's very, very good from my perspective. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Except between the two of you, you didn't leave me much to ask left.
I know. I've been known to speak a lot, so.
No. You answered all my questions, including the customer-centric one that you touched on that quite a few times. Why don't we, and I also want to echo what Bill said, that I know why you're here, and I was interested because I wanted to see what you coming from the private sector to the public sector, and I understand why you're here. We held you here a little longer than we probably should have, but we appreciate it. But any closing remarks or anything like that?
Well, you know, you talk about customer service. I know you asked the other two, Ken. I'll briefly speak on that. It's a customer service business and a customer service world, okay? We separate ourselves how? By being effective in customer service. That's how private businesses do. That's you try to do it as a town. You're here to service your taxpayers. That's what I'm here to do, and that's what I would do. And, you know, you talk about somebody coming in, if they had an issue or concern about, say, an invoice they submitted, it's really a matter of making the decisions that are in the best interest of the town, and at the same time, whatever information that is needed to push that through, you're gonna do that, and at the same time, put them at ease that you're gonna work on their behalf, okay? And that's what I look to do here. I understand, you know, there's some deficiencies I may have, but I think those are minor, considering my work ethic and what I think I need to do to come up to speed. And I think I offer many more areas to Zach and the team and his team, because at the end of the day, I'm sure they're feeling a little queasy about bringing somebody new in as well. And I think my personality speaks well for putting them at ease. I know Zach told me that this particular position is going to share an office with the accounts payable person. Well, I actually shared an office with the senior manager of accounts payable, and they strategically put accounts payable and accounts receivables together. And I really welcome that opportunity, because I think she would be able to offer me a lot of insight in many areas. And we even talked about maybe if I was in my role, I take on some of her responsibilities to learn her role and vice versa. So I'm open to anything like that. As you can see, I've been around for a long time, you know, same as you guys, and I think I offer a lot and bring a lot to the table that maybe some of the others do, but also maybe some of the others don't. So I appreciate your time and
Thank you,
and let me come before you.
Great. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good seeing you again.
Take care. Tom, take care. You know, Gene.
Before moving on to obviously any other agenda items, we interviewed 3 people. Bill, do you want to talk how you want to move forward, or how you think we should move forward, or?
Yeah,
Just wanna have a
well,
ca-
first of all, there were a lot of great candidates.
Yep.
Fantastic candidates. I think you would be amazed if you looked, the general public looked at the candidate pools who did not make it this far. It was very competitive, and there were accountants, town accountants within that pool. I'm very happy to see that folks want to work here. I think some of that reasoning and rationale for others from other communities is that our financial health. You know, there are only a few people suited to dig somebody out of a hole. There are a lot of people that want to be part of a successful organization and team when we talk about financing. So, you know, I think that contributed to some of what we've gotten in terms of candidate and candidate pool. Let me say this. I know why the 3 candidates got here. It's clear from your interviewing, Rick, and from Zach's process that you put together why they're here. There is a candidate that stood out for me. I'm happy to make a motion. Normally, I wouldn't do that with a member present, but I did talk to Zach recently about the time sensitivity and specifically some of the challenges the office was dealing with, and the amount of workload. He's very busy. Being down an accountant is significant impact. And so with that, I would make a motion to appoint Tom Brown, town accountant for the town of Milford. And further, I would, within that motion, recommend that, with our guidance, that Rick entertain contract discussions with Mr. Brown so that we can quickly accelerate the requirements of salary. And I'm sure he has some benefits. Some of the pieces that are negotiable, that have historically been negotiable, are time off and those types of things. So vacation time. Let's work through those details, and that would be my motion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Bill. No, I too want to thank the candidates. A couple did stand out to me. I do agree that and support your motion, and will second that for Tom Brown. I guess we can discuss what Bill talked about regarding moving forward, and maybe you can explain, Rick, also how we're going to do that, or what you think should be the next step. All those in favor?
I vote aye.
Aye, and that's unanimous.
Mr. Chairman, just a process question before we go to Rick. I want it clear, because we just talked about time sensitivity. I want it clear, to Zach and to Rick, that the Board of Selectmen are willing to meet if on off days, as has been historical. And so if you see an opportunity to do that so we can get this process started. Sure. I know it feels sensitive, time sensitive to Zach and our financial director. So I want to make that available so there isn't a 2-week lag if you need us to meet.
Okay. Great.
You want to talk about process now?
Yeah, with the board's permission, then I would meet with Mr. Brown to talk not only salary, but vacation, and the benefits are pretty much the benefits.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know if there's any real room for negotiation there. His will be the same as anybody else's. And then I could report back to the board if need be. I know we may have a session coming up that we could maybe put
sure.
Put this on. I have a couple of smaller things. If the board were interested, we could probably do this next week.
Okay.
If the board's willing.
You're able to get together with Mr. Brown?
I also wanted the board to consider maybe the next meeting, September 11th, maybe having a short meeting there. So if we couldn't get it done by next week, I'm pretty confident we could get it done next week in talking with all of the candidates.
You didn't see any hard barriers?
Any three of them, I really didn't see that we couldn't sit down and discuss those issues and probably get them done quickly to this board's satisfaction.
Well, whatever you need from us, obviously. We don't want to be an impediment to getting Mr. Brown onboarded and up to speed so that Zach gets the help he needs.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you. Next agenda item is the IT manager providing us with an update. Andrew.
Just have a moment just to set up a little
Sure,
bit.
absolutely. Sure, we're going to recess for about 5 minutes. Dan, if that's okay?
Yeah, that's probably a good idea for you guys after all those years.
8:22.
Yeah.
Nothing worse than setting up when you think.
Welcome back, and thank you for everyone's patience. Andy Diorio, the IT director, is here to give us an update on the Information Technology Department. Andrew.
Thank you very much, the Board of Selectmen. Before I get started, I'd just like to give a few thank yous. One out to Rick Villani, our town administrator. The other out to Zach Taylor, our finance director. Dan Fournier, my technician. World Band, our consultant. The Board of Selectmen, Finance Committee, and everybody else who've made this department the way it is today. I want to thank you for everything and all your support.
Thank you, Andy.
Welcome. Just a few things. Just going to go over the year-end wrap-up of what we did here at the IT department. Year-end, our ticketing system, security, and what you could look forward to next year, or actually this current year now. Want to say that I'm pleased to announce that we left fiscal year 17 on a high note. We completed all our projects by April, pretty much all of them by the 1st of this year. And we closed out the IT budget in the positive. We gave back the town like $27 out of our budget, so I'm pleased to give that back. We also completed the following non-planned projects. We did the Verona security suite. I'll go over a little bit more a little later on. The OPW fuel management system for the highway department, which replaced their old system called Gasboy, which the vendor said they were no longer supporting, and they needed to get a new system up and running. The pension technology group web portal for all the retirement, current retirees and current payroll people can go on and check all their retirement deductions and such through the web portal. We also implemented a new Helpdesk ticketing system, which I will talk about a little later on. We also implemented Daneware remote control, which now we can remotely access users' PCs with their permission to fix various issues. We've implemented Landsweeper, which is our inventory program on our network, and a password policy as well, which I'll go over a little later on. Our Helpdesk ticketing system, for the past 3 years, since 2014, we've been sharing it with the schools, and we've been using a program called School Dude. Out of those 3 years, we've had 1,000 town-related tickets since then. I probably think that's a little bit on the low side. Probably maybe an extra 300 more in there that weren't put in. So the average is about 8 tickets, new tickets a week that the town has put in. Since we did break from the school, I thought it was a good idea to have our own ticketing system. So I went out and researched, and I came up with this company, SolarWinds. The biggest complaints were users having to remember their passwords, usernames, and it just wasn't. They had a hard time putting tickets in. So I wanted to find something that was easy to access, and easy to put tickets in. We implemented this in April. We went live on July 10th, but we were putting tickets in since May, and we put in about 135 tickets since May until now, which is roughly about 10 tickets each week, new tickets. We also implemented Daneware remote control, which integrated with our ticketing system, so we can actually click on an icon within our ticketing system, and it could take us right to the end user's computer, and they can give us permission to access it to fix various issues they may have. It also integrated with our Landsweeper, which took all the inventory from that program and also put it into our ticketing system as well. And these couple things is one of the things that made me want to go towards this ticketing system, which I'll just show you briefly what this is all about. This right here is what the end user will look at. You go to helpdesk.townofmilford.com, pretty easy website to get to, easy to remember. This is also public facing, so people outside our network can actually access that and put tickets in. So this would help out the library and even the schools who have users who access our applications and stuff through our network and stuff. actually have my username and password, which is the same username and password you use to log into your computer every day. So one username, one password for that and this system.
That's good. Good for the user.
Just retype that in.
That's your password? He goes,
Yes, it's blocked out, so not
Just
many
kidding,
people can
just
actually see that.
you always wonder when
You wanna
somebody
do
says that.
that.
Is it typing on the screen?
Part of that password policy to not give it out to other people.
Yeah.
So we get to this screen right here, real simple. People go in to say, we want to set up this room. So we would go into the request type, we look up audio visual. Next category, room setup. Simple, put a subject in. Set up room 3, and then you could put in for Selectmen's meeting. And you can also carbon copy someone. I put this down just in case, say, one of someone from the department was doing it for the department head. They can also CC them. So say Rick Villani had Gene ask me to put this in. I can go in, and you can actually start typing right here. So I can put in Richard and R. Villani, put him in, just check that, and you save, and that gets...
Rick, you're getting another email.
That will get sent the ticket, which you'll get one, I'll get one, will be put into the system, but Rick and whoever else, you put that and we'll get one.
So Andy, you're not just using it for down events, but you're using it where somebody needs IT assistance for whatever reason.
Yes.
The printer's working, the computer's working, but they don't know how to set up the audio-visual in a room. They have an important meeting and would like your assistance. Okay.
Absolutely, they could put that up and they can choose
I think of,
whatever else.
I think sometimes people think of them as down tickets, in other words, a system that's down. Not always, right? So they just need your help. They're a customer.
Just any
your
IT,
help.
audiovisual help that they can use this system. We also have frequently asked questions here. The one that's going to, on all the request types is how do I access email from home.
Sure.
They can click on that, click on how to access, and we'll come up with a PDF on how to do certain things. And
That's good.
as we use this more, hopefully we'll create more and more frequently asked questions. Let's go back to our slides. So that was our Helpdesk ticketing system, and we are getting people using it, and they seem to like this a lot better than the other system because it's much more easy to use, and you get tickets. And also, you can also send an email, which I'm not going to announce right now in case we're going to get a whole slew of emails. But you can actually send a request to an email address that I have set up, and I've let all the town employees know that. So they can actually send one through that as well. Security, I know it's a big topic nowadays. We had implemented the Verona Security Suite, which is monitoring all our file shares through all our servers and stuff. It will alert us if permissions have been changed or suspicious activity, cryptoware, malware, and all that could be in there. And I know this is actually working because I was actually on vacation in which I got a whole slew of emails from the system saying permissions changed, which was actually a false positive after talking to my technician, Dan, who was actually doing some work with another vendor, and they had to change some permissions. So I know it's working. It's protecting us. It's one of those, makes you rest easy at night to know that this is working. We have actually set up a password policy. Now, users have to change their passwords every 120 days, so it's, once a season, once a quarter. There has to be at least 8 characters, 3 of the 4 upper or lowercase letter, a number or a symbol. They can't use the last 3. They will get locked out after a certain number of times, which is 5. And that's, pretty much it with that, and we'll be able to unlock them all, if they lock themselves out, which a few times it's happened and everything. And when we enacted this policy, it did go smoothly. We did have some bumps, which I anticipated, particularly at the school, who don't directly go to our network. They have to, they indirectly go to it, so they had to go through a different procedure to actually change it.
And I've always heard folks from IT, Andy, I don't want to do a commercial for you, but at the same time, I want to stress for folks at home or otherwise that, security begins with passwords. And it begins with that password policy, and the requirement that it change periodically is another aspect of security. And we think about security in IT and the amount of data that we hold and the amount of information you protect. It's a significant amount of information. I've preached it before, or you've heard me say it, you've preached it before, but I just want to say it again. We have an enormous amount of confidential data in this building, and not just in our building, in our servers, in our clouds, anywhere else that it may exist, and protecting that data is very important for our employees and our residents, whether it be their routing and transaction information, bank accounts, HIPAA, private health information that we have an obligation to secure. It goes on and on and on. So I appreciate it, what you're doing here. And when people think software and security and IT security, they ought to be thinking about those things that TJX and everybody else has had intrusions, data stolen, and accounts compromised.
Absolutely. Security isn't, you can have the top of the line security hardware on the network side, but it's actually the end user who's the most responsible for all the security, because that's where most of the breaches will come in, end users clicking on stuff they shouldn't have. And they just need to be educated, and password is the first and foremost. Yeah. And that goes outside of work environments and even in your personal life as well.
I don't mean to do a public service announcement, but I appreciate you working on this because you're protecting employees.
Absolutely, thank you. And fiscal year 2018, so this is our current year. We are going through a computer replacement. We have identified about 20 computers that are out of warranty, so we're looking to replace those. We're also looking to install rack mount UPS systems, which is the battery backups to our server room here in the town hall. The other ones are aging, and having them rack mount will allow us to clean up all the cables that are all spread out on the floor. We're also looking to replace the highway department's firewall. That's in progress right now. We're also looking to install a couple sonic points, which are the wireless access points, to the senior center hall, which is their bingo center, so they can actually, so the signal can actually go out to that hall, which right now it's kind of sure. Weak. Also, we're starting to plan on working with Zach and Chris, our town treasurer, and Rick Villani on looking into a enterprise resource program. This is something that it's something we need to be doing. This isn't something we can hold off. We need to start planning for this. So something like Munis we've been looking into, which would encompass all our systems and get take all like Patriot, Data National, and Budget Sense and just put it under all one roof. Something we're definitely looking into, and we're going to start planning for it for this year, and hopefully within maybe 2019 or maybe 2020 implement something like this. And as always, looking into cloud solutions. That was part of the 3-year plan. Maybe start out with emails and backups and work our way up. That also ties in with the enterprise resource program. Munis is also a cloud-based, so it's something we can also look into doing as well.
Andy, if you could go back to that one slide, Mr. Chairman, through you, just a couple of points. I just want to, I want to have some fun with. Sonic Point wireless locations at the senior center. You know, I don't think we'd have been talking about that a few years ago. We're talking about web portals for our retirees.
This is actually the Wi-Fi. to actually
that's a
have
Wi-Fi,
yes,
okay.
wireless. So they have wireless down there.
Yeah, so, but I mean, that's what I meant at the senior center, right?
Absolutely.
So we're talking about wireless internet access at the senior center. I don't think we'd have been talking about that a few years ago. Pension Technology Group, or PTG, web portal to assist folks through their retirement planning and whatnot. And this is what I was stressing a few years ago when we were talking about making sure that we had an engaged, active IT department that understood the priorities and then started to make things available that we never thought possible 2 or 3 years ago. Your interaction with other departments, highway, library, and your resourcing that activity is just exactly what I had hoped we'd eventually get to. So I want to commend you on that, and you're bringing together things that are very impressive. You know, some of this stuff isn't sexy, right? It's just, you know, when we talk firewalls, IT people can talk about it all day, and most people will fall asleep within about 20 seconds, 30 seconds. They just want to know you're protecting their data. So that's how I translate firewall, intrusion prevention, security of data, personal information, credit card information, transaction accounts for banks, personnel's health records. Those things are very critical to making sure we protect. It's not only the law, and it's our obligation, but it's the right thing to do. And then, Mr. Chairman, and Andy, I just want to get back to you on the fiscal 2018 piece of it. If we could, in the next couple of weeks, put some meat around it with respect to dates and plans. You did exactly what we asked for, so I don't want to make this sound critical. You did exactly what we asked for a high-level overview. I think the next level of detail is something that we can just get in our packet that shows what and when things are planned for 2018. Because cloud solutions, we know we've got to get there. We can't just keep buying servers. Right? Every time our data requirements grow, we can't keep plopping in servers. Not only that, they put an enormous drain on resources, not only for you guys, but subcontracted as well. So that's my only comment. Everything is positive all the way through it. Even that shouldn't be considered negative because you met the requirements of the presentation, and that was to keep it high level.
Sure. I mean, right now we are doing our computer replacement. We replaced 2 of them. Sue Clark's at the senior center, and Lisa Bakayaki up in the town clerks, who have the 2 oldest. So we're doing that. The firewall's in progress.
But for us, right? So computer replacement, how many computers do we want to replace in fiscal year 2018? What departments are they spread across? And what are the relative drumbeat of installs by quarter? When we talk about UPS, rack mount UPSs, that's still uninterrupted power supply?
Yes.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure I still have the acronyms correct.
Yes.
The relative cost and time, if it's November, it's November. Give us updates periodically on those. When's the highway firewall going to be chosen, installed, and then go live? Cloud solutions, that looks like a plan to plan, so I just want to make sure that when we talk about looking into cloud solutions, we're actually putting the detail behind it so we get what that means at the end of the day and when we're going to be implementing cloud solutions.
And the phases.
Yeah,
of that nature.
some phases and cut-ins, that's all.
Absolutely. And I can definitely...
I know you got it behind there.
I definitely can get you that, Isaac.
That's not the
I
detail
definitely
that
can.
would have worked tonight, but it will work in a document we get later because we know you have it in your
Sure.
head.
Sure, I can get you that. That's
And you're working with
easy enough
suppliers.
for that.
That's all I had, Mr. Chairman.
No, thank you,
Nice
Bill.
job.
Before we actually get to maybe questions and comments, I do have one last thing. And this has to deal with how we can gauge our citizens and how we can improve customer service. And in today's day and age, what's the one thing that you can do for that is to have a great website. So I like...
This is what I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
I I am pleased to unveil to this board and to the citizens of Milford, Mass, the new town of Milford, Massachusetts website. Here we go. This is what the new
It's
town
modern,
of Milford.
Andrew.
It's a little modern, much modern than it was before. The pictures here were done by Shannon Sanchez, who works in the accounting
Of course,
office,
yep.
and she does
Great.
photography on the side. We're looking into getting more pictures that represent different places in the town. But everything here is easy to locate. We have our online payments. Go straight to it. You can go to the tax collector, the town clerk, even have the schools up there so people can pay their bills or request marriage license, death certificates. We have forms and documents. Come on. Easy accessible from right here, and these are all on the department pages as well.
Looks great.
We have our minutes and agendas. We have all our minutes and agendas, but we do have this right here, to subscribe to minutes and agendas. Let's just say someone has an interest for the Board of Selectmen. They want to know when the agenda's coming out, when the minutes come out. They can actually subscribe, and they'll get an email saying that the agenda has been put up or the minutes have been put up. And they can just click on to whatever board or commission they want to get the minutes or agendas or news or alerts or other things. So I thought that was kind of a neat little thing that
Great feature.
great feature, yeah.
So you get alert that it's been posted.
Yes, you get an email saying, hey, the minutes or the agenda has been posted. Click here, and you can go right to the site. We do have our employment opportunities. Get some free press here. Right now, we have the supervisor, technical services, Milford trustee, and a link to the school's job postings. And let's go to your page.
Yeah, that would help for
You go
job
right to the-
postings and committee assignments or things that the board has interest in filling appointments, so that folks know when the deadlines are and the different things are. So if they have an interest, they can apply.
Absolutely.
You could take over the talent bank too, if you just had that form there, right?
Absolutely, we could put that in, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That way they don't have to come in and see you, but
Yeah, they could fill it out, file it, and all at one place,
yeah, we could
and
put
know what's
openings
available.
and solicit openings. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep, this website is easy to upload and to update, and this is going to be an evolving website. So as long as we get the information, current information, we can put it here, and so our citizens can see what's going on. This is your actual page here. Gives you all everyone here that's in red for like members means you can click there. We got Will here, and we'll go to an email.
Good.
A form. You're not going to show your email.
Yeah.
This is so you don't get spammed or we get spammed.
Yeah, 'cause I'm
You
getting
put
a
your name,
tremendous
your
amount of
email,
spam.
the subject, the message, and you can add attachments here. So it will go straight to your email, and the general public won't know that. They also have to click on here saying they're not a robot, so it's not like a computer generating spam.
That's great. Andrew, I have a question about that.
Yes.
I've actually meant to ask you this before. Is it possible for you to issue me a Milford MA email address so that I can keep everything separate?
Absolutely, I can give
I
all.
used to have two, now I have one. So with the schools, I had one, and you know what? It made it a lot easier, and things didn't get lost.
Absolutely, I
I'd
can
like
make.
to do that for all three of you?
If
they're
all
all-
three, if
I think
all
that's
three
great.
would like that, I can do that tomorrow.
That'd be great.
Yeah,
Awesome.
absolutely.
Sorry to interrupt you, but this just reminded me, and I've meant to ask you for some time.
Absolutely. All three of you should have it. I think anyone who's on a board or committee should have a town of Milford email to keep it separate from the personal.
Yep.
We do have all recorded selectmen meetings here, so easy to get to. Goes right to the YouTube section. Eventually, this meeting will be right here. Wow. In the next few days. Tomorrow, I guess.
Nice job.
They did a good job. It's a.
And is there
Some nice
anything else
features
you'd like
made.
to see on here, or?
No, I'm sure I'm gonna be spending some time.
Yeah,
just-
I mean,
When's the go live date for this?
Yeah.
Well, tomorrow.
Okay.
We'll say tomorrow.
Good answer, Andrew.
Due to the fact I thought it would be done right now, but we went to a milfordma.gov. We went to a .gov website, which gives us the prestige of being a governmental site. We had to go through all the hoops. As you understand, I had to get you to sign a letter.
That wasn't easy.
No, it's not. And you got to fill all the paperwork. You know, they actually have a government site. You got to go through a lot. And we filled all the paperwork out, and they just, however they, post the website, they just did it. So it needs to propagate. So right now it's not working, but tomorrow it should.
Okay. Well, no, that's great.
If not tomorrow, you're talking this week, so.
Well, and even getting that letter signed, I was actually getting frustrated saying, Andy, I sent it, I signed it. Well, I found out in my phone, it was in the outbox, and I had 11 other emails from folks that I responded to that never went. So this is why I want another email address. So I have a 24-hour response policy, and I didn't follow it.
But I have one last thing for this, just so you see this. Hold on.
The mobile app?
It works on your cell phones.
Nice job, Andy.
There you go. It doesn't matter how big the screen is or how small it can work on your smartphones. It's adaptive, so or responsive they call it. So it will work on your cell phone. So the old site really didn't do this. The new site will do it now.
Now, Andy, just a quick question. Can we assume that what's existing in this new website for the departments is what they contributed to it and want to see there?
Absolutely. They've had 2 months' time to actually send Virtual Town and Schools, who the vendor who created the site, and which I gotta say very, very, very much thank you for creating the site for us. They were given ample opportunity to contact them, send all the information that they would like to see or had removed, because the vendor did take everything that was on our old site and put it towards the new one. So anything that wasn't caught can be easily rectified going forward.
So you contributed to ease of use, what the views should look like, how things should
Absolutely.
be structured?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Good.
So, guys have any questions or comments or anything?
No, well, my comment is, you got something else.
Yeah. Yes, I do. We do have ClearGov is on the website as well, just to show you. I know Zach and his team had been working to get all this, and they're just about finalizing with all the information to put up on there as well.
So when will the ClearGov go live, do you know?
Right now, you can go on it, but there's just a few things. I know Zach, being shorthanded right now, wants to send to them, but our citizens can go there and actually view it right now.
Good, good. Outstanding.
And along with that, just to show you one last thing with where are the departments? We'll go to departments and retirement. So I can just show you the retirement site as well.
That's great.
This is the portal?
Yes, this I'll show you the portal. Taking its time. Let me see if it will work on here.
You're almost there. Don't worry about beating that. Yeah, for those of us that use Netflix or Fire Stick or whatever it is, we're used to that.
And here's the portal for the retirement. So if they go to the retirement board, it's Employee Self-Service ESS web portal, and it will take you right here. And they can register, self-register, just follow the instructions. And they can
So I just want to say one more thing. while we're using automation, great software, and thank you, there are still folks that are not going to take advantage of technology. You know, maybe weren't as adept at it when they retired, so therefore it's still somewhat foreign. I don't want anybody to think at home that you know, we're getting out of the customer service business face to face. Anybody can walk in. This is just another tool to augment an existing excellent staff who understands what the customers need, delivers that, but can deliver it in multiple ways that may make it easier for our customers.
Oh, absolutely. This is never going to replace actually walking in
Right.
or talking to someone on the phone or in person. This is just some to help yourself, the citizens at home, so they don't have to come in, or even the employees, such as, you know, going on online payments to help someone, or you know, just going on our website and stuff.
Nice job, Andy. Mr. Chairman, is this is something I would recommend that we take to the FinCom and that Andy take on a roadshow a little bit, because we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that there was a lot of discussion about how we would structure IT, and there was a lot of faith being placed on the types of things that were possible. People were looking backwards at tickets and not systems that could be in place and things that could happen. Now those things are starting to be realized, and we're talking about customer service, we're talking about, you know, all the things we talked about tonight, the new web page, we're talking about cloud-based systems, we're talking about security, all the things we were talking about before that wouldn't have shown on old tickets. And frankly, when people see this and use this, not only customers or community members, but also staff members from within Town Hall, they're going to be thinking about what's possible next. Can we do this? Can we do that? I have to tell you, before you arrived, before we got organized, people were very reluctant to talk about what's new and what's possible if their printer was never getting serviced. So I think we've entered a new phase. I think we're at a new level. You're setting the bar higher for yourself and anybody to follow you down the road. But nice work, and I just want to commend you on where you've taken this.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I mean, this is all, it's all a group effort. We're all here to support the department, and I really appreciate anyone who's been giving me support in this department. So thank you very much.
And you gave a lot of thank yous out to people like Zach. Zach should also, Rick, I know is contributing to this from a leadership standpoint. So nice work to everybody that you had said thank you to. I agree with you, Andy.
All right, well, thank you very much, Andy. We're making
Thank
huge
you.
strides in a very short period of time. I want to publicly thank Rick, too, for this. Dan, thank you very much. A classmate and a former student. Look at this. A great
All
team
comes
here.
together.
Absolutely.
No, thank you very much. Very impressive.
Nice
Thank
job.
you.
Nice
Thank
job.
you.
Do we want to hold off? Do you want to give your report? Or
Yeah, I'm ready to go.
Oh, okay.
Except
The next
for-
agenda item is the town administrator's report.
Yeah,
Rick?
Just, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just two items tonight. One, we have completed repairs to the ceiling and the walls at the Upper Town Hall. If you remember, there were certain areas that were very visible and very apparent that repair was needed. The repairs included compounding and painting. I want to thank Facilities Director Carlos Benjamin for overseeing this project and getting it done in a timely manner. An update on the MS4 general permit. We've been informed by Mass DEP that they have postponed the implementation schedule for the state MS4 permit. This action aligns the state's permit schedule with the postponement of the federal permit. So this decision avoids confusion and allows communities to dedicate their resources to the work they are already doing to comply with the 2003 MS4 permit and continue to protect the environment until the court rules on the appeal. It seemed just to be a common sense, and we're very happy that Mass DEP has, again, now aligned itself with the federal And then we'll await now the results of the appeal, and that'll probably be the next update. And that's all I have tonight.
Thank you, Rick. Bill, anything for Rick?
No, that's great. Good news.
Yeah, very good. All right, thank you, Rick. Now, we're moving on to old business. Rick, the retail marijuana zoning bylaw?
Yes, remember this was discussed at your last meeting. Before you is the question, the text of the bylaw that must be included, and the summary. So I'd ask you now to hopefully vote to refer this to the planning board for a public hearing so we can move forward.
Rick, can you just explain how, where we are in the process? So how is this intertwined with the ballot question? Do these steps happen first? Are they completely independent of one another?
Independent. The ballot question, the revised ballot question has been sent out. It's been clearly marked that it is a revision. I've had a number of my people out there come out and say they're very clear. They now have, why did I get a second one? But it's very apparent when you do get it, especially the absentee ballot questions that have gone out now. It's very apparent that it is a second revised ballot question. So that is ongoing. And we've even got some people that have already, returned the ballot. So they're independent of one another, but this needs to be remanded.
The only reason that I bring that up is literally about 3 minutes before I walked into this room today, I got a phone call from someone representing Pro Verde, that's a company in Milford.
Okay.
They're in, I think, are they in Granite Park? Fortune Boulevard, I think. I can picture the sign, and I don't mean to be ignorant, but I do have to admit that because I didn't know what they did. They do a number of the things that are on the ballot summary. So I just wanted to see where this was compared to, because I certainly didn't know what they did other than some of their other pharmaceutical activities.
Yeah.
But they test for heavy metals, they test marijuana, they test edibles, they grow it to test it and different strains. I guess they do a number of tests for different organizations.
So they're a test house, right?
Yes.
And so, this, as would happen frequently, sometimes you want to make changes into bylaws that can't impact those that already have approved businesses and, in good standing with their taxes. So it doesn't impact anybody who has an existing business. Bylaws and planning articles can't do that.
Right.
And so, that's a great question, though, and it's not one that I think everybody is aware of. But with that said.
That's why I didn't know how, but that won't be able to take place in Milford if with the current referendum outside of this, or is it protected?
It's grandfathered.
It is.
Grandfathered to any zoning changes.
Okay. All right, I think that's just clear to know
Okay,
if that's been.
Yeah, I mean, we can just run it through. There's nothing that would make a business close shop.
Not to my knowledge, no.
No, especially one that's been here a long time.
That long, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they're a test house and I think anybody.
And I wasn't, and I certainly wasn't aware of that.
Yeah,
but,
yeah. So with that, vote to remand the summary of the language and the zoning bylaw to planning board.
I'll second that. All in favor? That's unanimous. Rick, the second item of old business is the timeline for the building commissioner?
Yes, before you, I've placed a couple of the ad we would put in the Daily News, the ad we would put in or at least a proposed ad rather, in the Beacon, also with a timeline, keeping in mind we would like to obviously move forward as quickly as possible within reason.
Yep.
We'd look for a September 19th date where myself and this board would review any and all applications that are sent in. 21st and 22nd, we would set up for interviews, myself and anyone else the board would like to consider, to then recommend 3 candidates to this board. Obviously, the Selectmen would have the option to select any additional candidates. In this case, I think the board would be involved in that as far as moving candidates forward.
Yeah.
We do have a little bit of a crunch in that to make the September 1st Beacon, I need to get this out before noontime tomorrow to them. So if the board has any recommended changes, corrections, clarifications.
I know I do.
So, that's fine.
But nothing, I don't think anything huge to actually make you know, you not to be able to make the deadline at noon, but Bill, I'll let you.
Yeah, I would say some simple edits are in order. First of all, you know, we're coming under deadline as a requirement by the community to be able to process documents, occupancy permits and whatnot. And I'd ask you a couple of things. We'll first go through this, and then we can talk about that further. So my only comment is education experience, college graduate with bachelor's degree in engineering, minimum 5 years prior work experience. I'm gonna recommend that we change that.
Okay.
Because it's very possible that within the trades, that we have somebody with construction experience, construction supervision certification, and a host of things that would make them eminently qualified to be a building inspector. So I would remove the requirement for an engineering degree. You know, often, and our big projects come in already stamped by PEs, looking and checking structural loads and whatnot. Anybody in construction supervision understands, that's been in that trade for a while, has the experience. So I would recommend changing that and eliminating that requirement for an engineering degree.
Okay.
Yeah, you can look at other communities as well that have done that. Construction supervision, special requirements.
Hey, Bill,
Yeah.
can we just go back and forth rather than you go through a list
Oh,
and then I
okay.
go
Go ahead,
through a
please,
list?
please.
Just for under education experience, where it says college graduate with a bachelor's degree, would we want to say a bachelor's degree is preferred? I always get nervous about boxing ourselves out. My father certainly didn't have a bachelor's degree, but he ran a successful business. I just don't want to make sure that we don't box ourselves in. I think with John, obviously in the past, obviously
Yeah.
having an engineering degree.
Preferred but not required is a
Yeah,
great, it's
something-
great language
I wanna-
that
I wanna-
allows us to look at both.
Preferred, sure. Yep.
But I would say, you know, so if somebody has an electrical engineering degree, that doesn't make them structural load experts, right? So generally, when we're talking about this, we're talking about, and more specifically, industrial engineering. We're talking about mechanical engineering. But, okay, preferred but not
Yeah,
required.
because I think you could have a
Satisfies
bachelor's
us
degree in
both.
English if you
Yeah,
have one at
exactly,
all. And
exactly.
have 25 years experience. I mean, I have a friend who's a builder and he has a pharmacy degree.
Yeah,
So I think that we don't, you know, there's no reason to necessarily box ourselves in.
Sure.
Special motor vehicle Class D operator's license, which is general requirements to have a vehicle, right? Construction supervisor license. Are we making that a requirement? Because what I want to see is, if I can balance, now that I hear you talking, Will, if I can balance between engineering degree and construction supervision, I don't want to make both requirements. And I don't want to make either requirements. I want to be able to have as flexible an option as possible, so they may have either or.
Well, I could support that because I think, especially in the past, people have had their construction supervisor licenses, but may not have already been a building commissioner.
Right, and I think state certification as a, so this says, I just want to make sure we have this right, because that's another thing that I have a question on. By law, we'd be able to, I think, Rick, if I read everything correctly, and check me if I'm wrong, we're allowed to appoint a state-certified building inspector.
Yeah, someone who has a local inspector, then you could, many jurisdictions.
They have a requirement
State certification
to
as a
get state
building
certi-
is required to be.
Within so many months.
Within 18 months
Okay.
of the appointment. I've looked at a number of descriptions.
So why don't we
A lot
do
of them
that?
do it that way.
Okay, yeah, because to be honest with you, and I know this is where, you know, I'm in my third year and I can still say I'm kind of new at certain things. I certainly have not been part of hiring a building commissioner. So those are the questions I had as well. The differences between a local building inspector, a building commissioner's license. Some towns, so I guess that's where I was asking. So you can be a building commissioner with the minimum requirement of having at least the local building inspector's license?
No, you get the local inspector license.
You need
That's
that to
the-
be even a commissioner with
That's
the
correct.
time.
Without that, you cannot make even
Either.
a conditional appointment as a building commissioner.
That's what I was looking for, because I was
If you
trying to
have
look
that,
with this
You could appoint someone,
within a time limit they
additional
have to do. it.
building commissioner,
Yep.
provided they make and get that state certification within, the typical job description I've seen is 18 months, and I believe that's the code of
That's what I
ethics.
saw.
So a hypothetical scenario, somebody could be a local inspector for the city of Framingham, as an example.
Yep.
Hypothetical. They could have been a local state-certified building inspector for 25 years. They could have an engineering degree or not. They could have construction supervision license and apply for this.
Yep.
And have 18 months to become a certified building commissioner as required by the
You could make
state.
the appointment conditional, correct.
All right, I'd like that flexibility
My
because,
understanding, and many towns do that. I have about 15 job descriptions. I probably should have brought some of them.
Yeah, that was my big asterisk, because I was looking that up and I couldn't, I spent about half an hour just kind of going through the requirements, so it's clear, people who apply for this position need at least a state local building
You
inspector
cannot get
license.
around that. You cannot get around.
No, I think that's clear, because if I'm asked, I want to be able to say,
Cannot, that is.
are you licensed as a local building inspector? You are, then, feel free, and that's the, okay.
we should say, state certification as building commissioner is preferred, but not required.
But we should say a local building, license for local building inspector.
Yeah, we
is
should. That way you're gonna weed out some
No.
applicants,
Less confusion.
because we can't appoint anybody who's not.
And that's the difference, because we could have a great person who's gonna have customer service and all these years of experience.
Yeah.
And then if they're not, they don't even meet the minimum requirement, why would we
Right.
even allow them to
So,
take up their
do you
time?
have that, Rick? I'm sorry,
Yeah,
we're
what I
being
think,
cryptic.
yeah, but I think would you recommend putting state certification as a building commissioner to be in place within 18
I
months
think
of
that's important.
appointment? I think you
And
need-
if that's the norm, Rick, what
That's
other
pretty
thing-
much what I've seen
If
in
that's
other.
standard,
Okay.
then I could support
I
that.
could support that as well,
Okay,
but at least they have to be a local building inspector.
yeah, otherwise you cannot make that condition.
Okay, no, thank you for explaining that, because I had some confusion with that.
The other thing, Mr. Chairman, that I want to see, I want to make sure that it's clear. We talk about this being exempt.
Non-union.
Exempt means that it's not paid by an hourly compensation.
This is a salary position.
But I want to find the right language, and I'll let you do it, Rick, where some nights, evenings, and all that are a requirement for this job. If there's a fire,
Yeah, I've seen language that almost says that you're on call like a firefighter.
yeah,
Or
yeah,
a police
there's-
officer.
sometimes there's gonna be a
24-hour
need.
call. Some jurisdictions
So
do
we
that.
have building code situations where neighbors have in the past been very vocal about the amount of light shed on their property, making perpetual daylight out of their living room. Those are instances where people have to go out and perform the work at night.
We had one such occasion
Observations,
since
all
I've
that.
been here, yeah.
So I just want to end the discussion.
Can't check for lights during the
Yeah,
day.
during the day. Yeah, so what I want to do is end the discussion that this is a day job. This isn't a day job. I've heard people use that term in the past.
Okay.
This is a person who's may be required to be available nights and weekends, and is required on instances that we can casually name here. So,
Oh, yeah, I had a family member's house who got run into at 11:30 at night.
Yeah,
John
house gets
was
hit.
there, and
Yep.
I went
Structurally, is
there
it
only 'cause
okay?
it was a family member, and
is there a fire? There are a
we were
number
there
of
at,
things that can happen.
midnight, yeah.
So I just want to make it clear that that exists. And the other thing is, I think with task force, I don't want anybody's priorities, and I want to see how the board feels, priorities to be in confusion about which time they're working for what town. So whether it's side letter or something else, or it's clearly articulated in this, it isn't helpful to me that let's just say somebody's not able to get to the duties of a task force, but yet is meeting the requirements of other towns who have demands. So I know this is sometimes common, but I think when we get into our situation and the challenges we have in front of us, I'm not looking for somebody to be building inspector or building commissioner in 6 other towns. So
Well, because it's not a contracted, it's a position, right? It would have to be
it
in the
would
job
have to
description.
be here is what I'm thinking as well. Yeah, you're exclusively working for the town of Milford. Okay. Yeah, because, you know, you could have somebody come in here and apply for the position, get it, and you didn't know they were builders building houses. So whether they're builders building houses, working in the trades, or they want to work for other towns, it should be clear that when they apply, that this is for the town of Milford, expected to be their position, and without written consent of the board, no, you know, the other employment. I'll let you structure the language, but I don't want anybody's priorities confused. I don't know, Will, how do you feel?
No, that's perfectly fine. This is a full-time job, and I think we can, Milford certainly has enough of the complexities to keep that person busy, and I'd want to make sure that, you know, that's why hopefully we find the right person, we'll compensate them,
for
so,
full-time, yeah.
for full-time.
I agree, because, you know, otherwise it should be a part-time role and you know, and then we should just acknowledge they're gonna be working at other towns, and I don't think that's what Milford needs. We've been talking.
We're too big.
Yeah, we're too big, and I think we've been talking too much about the quality of life issues that we need to get more organized with, so. Okay.
Okay.
I'm not sure what the language is, Rick, but, some minor adjustments.
Again, I can get the ad in the Beacon and
Okay.
work on that language, get that to the board
Okay.
for your review, yeah.
Well, great. All right, thank you.
Because the Beacon won't post until September 1st.
Oh, okay, great.
Good.
All right. Bill, anything else regarding the building commissioner position?
No.
Okay, no, nor do I. Now we have the town administrator's evaluation process and goals.
Yeah, what I prepared for you is a couple of goals new goals. One, obviously, the ADA transition plan we're now going forward with. We're gonna be setting up a preliminary meeting. So that would be one thing that I want to take through fruition. Not only the implementation of the preparation of the plan, whether or not we'll get to this year, also possibly maybe starting to implement certain areas of the plan once we see it. There will be some grant opportunities in fiscal year 18 also. So that would be one, and obviously the LED lighting installation project that this board approved would be another one that, not so that can be completed entirely in fiscal year 18, but it would be a project that I think we need to begin, and I have started that process also. And the third one I added is pretty much a similar goal from last year, kind of tweaking it a little bit, which is, again, cooperation meetings, department heads, each department head, and then also department heads' quarterly meetings with all department heads. And those are three things that trying to maybe use, go to less goals and objectives, because I feel that obviously this board will have some additional ones that you may want to include either individually or as a board. As far as the form itself, I know there was some talk about, and I didn't get a chance to put it together, but I have seen some where there is a numbering system, where, you know, outstanding is a certain number, exceeds expectation is a certain number. We could make the form simpler by using something like that with a scale that at the end you can add. You could still have the individual elements of management, et cetera.
Yeah,
but
you
there'd
still
be
need a
no-
place to comment.
Exactly, but there'd be no requirement for you to do that. The other thing is, and I think it was Bill, you mentioned, hopefully what I'll try to do when I at least present what I think I have accomplished is try to then refer back to goal 1, goal 2, goal 3. This particular skill was used in developing the ADA transition plan, for example, by bringing department heads together, da-da-da. I'm getting a little general, but.
No, now you're going exactly
That's kind of
where-
what you were getting at, if I remember correctly, and I think, and then the board could look to either confirm or or, you know, have questions or objectives on that also, so. Like I say, I could streamline it that way, it might make it easier. Again, last year was kind of the first time we did implement something like this, at least since I've been here. And I know, Bill, it was a great deal of work, because each of the members of the Board of Selectmen made comments on each and every category. And then to try to put those together, I'm sure was not an easy process for you
No,
guys.
it'll always be harder on the chair. Done a good job getting this process started. I think we're still going to be working on this for another week or two.
Oh, I think so. I would expect, hopefully, I'd like if we could maybe wrap it by the end of September.
Yeah, please, yeah.
That'd be great.
So
And
that
then-
we can start getting to. And
But I have some recommendations
Yes.
now, Rick, if
Yeah,
you're ready.
Go ahead, yes, go ahead.
So great goals and objectives. One thing I do is, I'm gonna make some structural suggestions here. I'd implement a new goal 2
Okay,
and make it 20% weighting.
okay,
Policies and Procedures Manual.
okay,
And the deliverable for that would be best-in-class municipal policies and procedures manual for town hall.
okay.
So again, 20%.
20.
Now, which messes up your math, so I want to help in other
Oh,
areas.
we can, yeah, I can adjust the math. though.
Goal LED lighting, I'm going to recommend 15% from 25%.
Okay,
The goal to improve communications, always got to be up there, always has to be a significant percentage, but I'm going to recommend it go from 30 to 20, given the gravity and weight of the policies and procedures manual.
yep,
I'm going to also ask that within that goal 3, because you're promoting communication and working with department heads, looking to remove roadblocks, structural or otherwise, policy or otherwise, between departments, I'd ask you to place specific emphasis on assessors and building department. I know there's some unique challenges there that we want to be able to work through.
sure.
Takes a leadership role to do that. And I don't have any other comments as it relates to goals and objectives. Now, what I'm going to suggest here is that we kind of blow up the evaluation.
Okay,
And here's what I'm thinking, and I want it to be collaborative. What I'd like is your evaluation to be your goals and objectives. So if we've agreed that these have the right combination of elements of management, leadership, organization skills,
Yeah.
all of those things, what you can really do is take this, restructure it, take the goals and objectives, you've got the weighting there. You can have a numeric numbering system underneath each of these goals, and then you can have a place for comments.
okay,
And that means that it becomes less subjective. It means that we've agreed on it ahead of time. Nobody should be surprised that the end of year evaluation is going to be on the things that we said were important to us and you said were important to you and we agreed with. I think that just becomes the
So you streamline
the
it.
evaluation, just streamline it. What do you think about that? Because it involves you, so.
so you asking then for a numbering system as to below expectations meets expectations, or am I missing something?
Like 4, 3, 2, 1, or 0, 1, 2, 3? I mean, is that what you're talking about?
Exactly. So what I want to do is come up with numbering
Okay,
that says, 1 through 5.
yeah,
On the far end exceeds expectations.
okay,
On the lowest end, doesn't meet expectations.
low, yeah,
Below expectations.
meets, yeah,
And then lines for narrative underneath that.
okay,
So if I were pulling this together this year, and thankfully I'm not, I get to average those numbers and come up with something very specific for weighting
okay,
against the percent that it's weighted for your total job.
I see, yeah,
I get to do some averaging among people and also include as many of the comments as I see aligned to the numeric numbering.
okay.
So then I think you can get, because if this doesn't have, your goals don't have all those elements, then something would be wrong anyway, right? I think I just like it better. It all connects.
Okay.
I've seen this done before, by the way. This isn't a real far-out experiment.
Okay, okay.
I've seen this done, and it works pretty well.
Okay.
Because now I don't have to translate what these goals and objectives are and how they fit into this.
Okay.
They are your goals and objectives.
For each of the, I think I understand. Okay, yeah.
Does that make sense, Will?
Yeah, no, it does. And Rick, you're comfortable with that? Or do
Yeah.
you need time to think
'Cause
about
that's-
it, or?
You need
Let me,
some
let me
time?
try to draft something together, but I think I can put something together, sure. Put something in that you can look at.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying, each goal and how those translate. Okay. Okay,
And not separate, disparate documents, but instead are all connected.
okay,
Okay. I think that will work better for all of us, including you, frankly.
okay. Thank you.
I had thought about you a lot in that process. Okay.
All right, anything else on the evaluation process?
Nothing on evaluation. I have other old business.
Okay, other old business?
All right. Two things, Mr. Chairman. We've talked about an appointment that's available, and we have a longtime member of the community who's applied for FinCom and has been waiting in the wings a very long time. I'd like to make a motion that we appoint Andy Lazat for FinCom for the opening that was recently created.
Sure, I will second that for Andrew Lazat. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
So that's one of the old business items. The second one, Mr. Chairman, is, I don't know if you recall, I'm sure you do, a discussion we had on policy for handling resolution for all third-party claims. I looked at this as a financial controls issue,
Okay.
where it wasn't clear the authority that the selectmen gave to town council for settling of those claims. So this structures it in a way that allows us to put a policy together. And basically what it says is all claims come to the attention of the town will be investigated by the legal department. Board of Selectmen will be provided status report of all claims regardless of category 1 or 2. And it talks about category, well, let me see. This should actually say 2 or 3,
2 or
right?
3.
Okay, good.
Yeah, no, it
So we'll
should.
strike that and
Yeah.
say 2 or 3. And then we'll go to category 2 is legal department is authorized to settle all claims utilizing the funds of the liability claims fund when claims are property damage only and liability on the part of the town is clear and the settlement does not exceed $5,000. So there's that signatory authorization that accounting controls people were talking about tonight that we have and have in place. The second thing is it talks about, and it also says that the status of those claims should always be made available to us on a periodic basis as they come in. The third group is following claims, categories for claims shall be settled only after approval of the Board of Selectmen. And so what it says is somebody within the law department and town council would have up to but not to exceed 5,000, and it requires the Board of Selectmen to intercede and approve claims before they're made on our behalf. I'd make a motion that we approve this with the simple changes in section 1 that talks about category 2 or 3.
I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
And that's unanimous.
That's all I had under old business, Mr. Chairman.
I also had a couple of things. Rick, do we have any update on that elections working group we were talking about? Because I'd like to see that up by the fall. I'm just not sure. And I know, again, I want to give her her due. Our town clerk, Amy Nebbs, offered to co-chair it. And she did that via email some time ago. But I just want to make sure that if maybe we can just communicate with her, see if she's still there. Because I would like Brian Cole, who's a town meeting member, to be the other co-chair. He's asked for that. Bill, hopefully you can support that.
I'd be happy to.
He speaks a lot at town meeting. He comes to these meetings. He's very involved. And I know he's expressed interest in some other positions, one of which was the BVT appointment. So I asked him if he'd be interested in this, because again, Amy, with her full-time job and family and everything else, I think it's smart to be co-chairs.
Sure.
And with some personal things I have going on, I would have loved to do it, but I don't think that's the appropriate thing to do.
Understood.
And Brian is willing to step up. So if I can get a motion to appoint Brian Cole co-chair, maybe they can get together, and maybe you can kind of navigate them.
Sure.
And then come up with who, a number of town meeting members, or Bill, if we want to get their recommendation and go from there, or if you want to make some recommendations, I'm certainly open to anything. I just would like to see this up and running, or at least getting together, hopefully after Labor Day, if they're willing
agreed.
to do
I
that.
think there's some medical issues and some leave issues that might prevent this meeting from kicking off right away. I think it'll take a little time.
Oh, okay, I wasn't aware of that. Okay.
There is.
Okay.
But here's what I would like to do. I think your motion to appoint Brian Cole, and I'm going to guess also appoint Amy Neves, town clerk, as co-chairs. I'll unanimously make unanimous.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's great. I appreciate that, and please, I certainly wasn't aware of anything, but if anything's changed, if you could let us know, Rick.
No, we'll be able to go forward with it, just
Okay.
maybe a
Yeah.
little later than you
Little
thought.
time,
Oh, no,
No,
that-
I don't see an issue with that.
Yeah, we're just
I certainly,
resetting
I
expectations.
certainly can't complain about that, that's for sure. But as
Okay.
long as it's in the motion, then
Yes.
I'm really happy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
My other area was I did, again, make a priority that I wanted to get some other boards in here. I am hoping that, and Rick, this certainly won't be difficult for you to do, but I would like to get the Geriatric Authority in here.
Sure.
One, I've heard excellent things about the new executive director that you folks hired.
I think he's doing a good job.
Okay,
should meet
that's
them.
good. I would like to meet him.
Yep, sure.
I know.
mentioned to him, and he said he'd be glad to come in.
Oh,
I've
you
talked-
did already?
I've talked with him.
Oh, terrific.
Yeah.
Okay, I knew you spoke highly of him to me, but I'd like to do that. And are we any closer to having that meeting with the Board of Assessors? You brought up the assessors, just so we can
Close on that.
and move forward, and just so, if we can just do that.
I'm actually meeting with Jen tomorrow on something else, so
Okay.
we can discuss that tomorrow.
Yeah, because I see that being, probably a short just get together, but I'll just check it off the list. We can kill two birds with one stone whenever we want to meet with the assessors.
Sure.
And I'll leave that to you to decide whether or not that has to be in a different environment, or quite
Yeah, no,
frankly, here. And then we go from there, because I would like to eventually get the Board of Health in here and some other boards, especially. And we agreed that, I wanted to do that in the fall when people are, more apt and back from vacation and paying attention. So, but if we can start with the Geriatric Authority, I'm hearing such good things about the executive director.
I'll try to get him in for the next one, yep.
Oh, great, thank you. All right, that's all I have for old business. New business, we have the appointments and reappointments of the traffic supervisors.
Yeah, so, Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to motion for the names as listed by the town administrator, and provided on F1. I'll go through them. Mary Jo Bentley, Loris Conley, Paul Davidson, Peggy Farrell, Manny Fonseca, Donald Accavelli, Toussaint Jackson, Sue Kowalski, Nadine Ledoux, Gloria Linnell, Larry Lowther, Donna Mason, Francis O'Neill, John Shirillo. Substitutes Brian Bergoli, Myron Gorby, Christine Wispiansky, and Francisco Chaves.
And I'll second that. All in favor? Unanimous. Second is a request from our Board of Sewer Commissioners. Dear Mr. Kincaid, the Board of Sewer Commissioners requests approval to auction one 1994 Ford F-350 utility truck. The VIN is provided, and one John Deere 650 tractor, including the mower deck and snow blower. They need our approval for that.
Motion to approve?
And I'll second, and that's unanimous. Second is a one-day license request for the Italian-American War veterans for the Team Mickey Ward fundraiser. And the date is September 9th, and the hours are between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m.
Move,
And
Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry.
Nope, seconded, and that's unanimous. That's a great event. Next is a one-day license from Craft Roots Brewing on September 23rd, which is a Saturday, from between the hours of 2 p.m. and 10 p.m., and it's a malt beverages only. And it's for a retirement party that they're having at the brewery.
Yeah, which is closed and a private function, which is fine. They don't have a facilities hall for, great company. But, you know, what struck me, Mr. Chairman, first of all, I want to make a motion to approve this, then I want to talk about it.
Well, I'm going to second that and wish Robin, who's retiring after 32 years as a lieutenant on the state police. Did I steal that thunder from you?
No,
Oh,
no.
okay. She's a great lady and a heck of a trooper.
You know, it actually strikes me something else that, you know, for this one-day event, a retirement party, a local business applies for a fee, or has to pay a fee of $100. And it's not criticism of anybody, it's how fee systems get. And I'm not sure how much overhead there is associated with this, but
Well, we did want to look at all the fees.
that's exactly where I was going. I think the board ought to spend some time on its fee structure. And what I don't want is rationale for fees that simply use other towns' benchmarks. What I want is an understanding of how much resource goes into the effort. Right? If it's a few minutes out of somebody's day to help somebody with an application, you know, I don't know. We've got to start thinking about this more like customer service than it is. I know that's.
Well, we've been talking a lot about customer service today.
Yeah. So it's just something I want to interject. So I don't want to confuse the retirement party and my recommendation and motion to approve, which you seconded.
That's seconded, so that's unanimous. Well, and to do with the fee structure, I know Rick did provide the fee structure or fee schedule to us some time ago, because I remember we had asked for it and then we never really acted on it. Can we get that again by the next meeting?
Yep.
But we'll put it on the agenda for the one after that, so we spend some time with it.
Sounds good.
And that way, you know, Mike will have it too well in advance.
We'll get it
and
in
we
your
can do
box
All right,
this week.
great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Next one is a one-day license for Cafe Sorrento on September 17th. This is a clam bake that's a nonprofit going towards the Marine Building Fund.
Great event, and motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
And I'll second that, and that's unanimous. And then we have a letter from the Devlin Law Offices LLC, and this is simply a change of officers for 99 West LLC, doing business as 99 Restaurant and Pub. I'm not sure if you have any questions, Bill?
No, it looks like, based on the letter that I read, it looks like there's no vote required because there's not a change of officers. There are some leaving, but no new additions?
No new additions.
Is there, and could somebody?
Actually, they are being replaced. Two of them, two have resigned, and they're being replaced by two.
That's,
I think, unless I'm misreading it.
all right, I'm gonna
Second.
go to, I read what Devlin says.
Okay.
All right, so now I'm gonna read from the state form. Alcoholic Beverage Control Commission has received an application on 99 West LLC for change of officers, directors in the above noted cities and towns, which is a list of them, including Milford. There are no new officers or directors coming in. There is just an officer and a director leaving the corporation.
I think someone sent us a wrong form letter.
I think they did.
This is that inverted approval process where everything's submitted to the ABCC first, and then they find that it's in compliance with Mass General Law, and there's really no change in the operation or the management or et cetera of the physical structure of the restaurant. I did find another typo in the letter also.
Well, typos is, what was the other one you found?
There was one where I think they meant to say management instead of no change in manager.
Yeah,
Yeah, because it is interesting, the front.
they compete with each
Front
other.
says
Doesn't make sense.
two officers, names them, have resigned and are being replaced by these two. And the state letter does say the exact opposite. to
Right,
the
and
point.
given what the state wrote, what it's implying is, there's no vote, there's no requirement by local boards. No fees need to be collected by the local boards. They've already accepted copies of applications.
We might have to reach out to Mr. Devlin.
Maybe
just
there
to
is a
let
vote
him know.
required for the processing of the application?
Well, there is a vote required for the front letter, it's just not one,
Not consistent with what the state, so they gave us the wrong document.
I can double check with
All right.
Mr. Sacramone.
I'd suggest that we not act on this and then, till we get that clarity.
Just a standard procedure. I can look back and
Yeah.
find.
I will double
other
check, but
votes.
it's something that we've done. It's, again,
Yeah, 'cause
they
we-
approve everything and they just kind of notify us.
But what their attorney is saying is actually in conflict with what the state is telling us.
That's the local licensing authority review record. You state the letter and just send it in. It's just a process.
Yeah. I can double
So-
check and bring it back.
well, are we holding any business up of the operation?
There's no way, not with that many cities and towns.
Not that I could think of, no, I can't imagine.
You're right, and that's the magic.
No,
Can't
I just
imagine
wanted to
we
make
are.
sure. Okay. Bill, any new business?
Nope.
I don't think I have-
Other than resetting the fees.
Yes, yep, okay, we covered that, that's right, the fee schedule. Okay,
I think that's it.
next is correspondence.
There is none, I don't
Doesn't
think.
look like we have any.
No informational item.
Okay.
Although, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to try to be somewhat cryptic, but at the same time address something that I don't think is executive session. Jerry's giving us guidance on proposed articles for town meeting. September 26th town meeting, where the town will be voting to opt for whether or not to buy the water company. He made a recommendation, the second article. I think it's in conflict with the guidance that the board has given him in the past regarding additional funds. And so I let Jerry know that we're trying to do it within the existing town meeting appropriation.
Yeah, and that was,
I thought that was clear.
yeah, that was discussed, so we'll just have to,
So I just want to make sure, what I said is that it should be brought up at a board meeting. What I want to make sure is that Jerry gets a consistent message, and if I've got it wrong, I'm happy to, acquiesce to the others on the board. If not, is that the direction? I wanted to get your thoughts on that as well. That's your.
I know, I understood it as actually being, that was a unanimous message, as far as I was concerned as well. I don't want to speak for Mike, because he's not here, but I believe that was his, actually his very direct comment, but we can circle back to that and have that
Okay.
conversation again if need be. We do not have an executive session, so
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman?
I'll second that, and that's unanimous. Have a good night. Thank you very much.